south winds around 5 knots. Waves 1 foot. Tuesday, southwest winds. Waves 1 foot. Tuesday night, southwest winds 5 to 10 knots. Waves 1 foot. Southwest winds 5 to 10 knots. Waves 1 foot. The Northern Virginia mountain forecast for elevations above 2,000 feet, including the Skyline Drive. Tonight, partly cloudy. Lows in the upper 30s. Monday, sunny. Highs in the mid-60s. Monday night, mostly clear. Lows in the upper 40s.
No reason to fear doses of AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine
Wednesday,
provided by Trudeau says.
Lows in the upper 50s. Highs in the upper 70s. Thursday, lows around 60. Highs in the mid-70s. Friday, mostly cloudy. A chance of
higher quality, less expense, and
Greg Giraldo passing, Trippz passing. This is like your family. He's become your brothers and sisters. Like Vanessa Hines has turned into has been my lifelong sister.
Move in. A few two-bedroom and den, and 3 bedrooms with terraces are still available.
A few.
Styled with impeccable finishes.
So that's like 2 ways to the middle. They got to tell you there's a bunch of them, so you want to buy them, but not so many that you're thinking price. Not so many that you think the whole building is family units, because then the single people that pay twice as much per square foot won't want to move in, because this is the logic of real estate developers.
#1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good evening. This is Sunday, April 25th. I'm Veronica Thorne.
And I'm Michelle Halim. Here's what's making news this hour.
Chadwick Boseman's last film takes home several Oscars and the best
Not so much for that, stupid.
Yeah, I totally agree, Tara. I think it.
Maya can speak to it more. I've been there only a couple times. You know, year here, year there for shows. She'll know. But that's
even the audience postures. But like New York, you're mostly the biggest competitive thought I usually have in New York is, damn, how am I going to follow this guy?
What does that mean?
Sure to protect your plants tonight. If you live in Toronto or Niagara, a frost advisory is in effect.
Jin Ryu forced to leave in the Blue Jays.
So, these people hate the fact I restream them all the time. You know what they hate even more? When I don't restream them. Fucking stupid. The biggest news story is the TV show you're not watching. Well, I guess there's no news. I'm stupid.
In Ocean City, fair skies.
I guess it means I hold the news because I know what's going on out here.
At Pawtucket River Naval Air Station, fair. Temperature 58. At Quantico, fair skies. Temperature 58. Winds west at 5 miles an hour.
Oh, right.
For Richmond, fair skies. It was 59. At Roanoke, fair. Temperature 55 degrees. At Winchester, fair. Temperature 55. At New York, fair skies. 61. At Philadelphia, mostly cloudy skies. 62. At Raleigh, fair skies. 61. Now for a few observations on the waters. At Washington Channel, the wind was west at 5 knots, and the water temperature was 58 degrees. At Piney Point, the wind was northwest at 15 knots, gusting to 16. At Thomas Point, the wind was west at 11 knots, and the water temperature was 54 degrees. Here is a look at the weather features that will affect the region over the next several days.
Tomorrow, 11 degrees, mostly sunny, should be a really nice day, and it will not be as windy across the GTA. Tonight's overnight low
gradually subside tonight.
Right now,
However,
downtown
some
Toronto,
sporadic
it's overcast and 4 degrees, feeling like -1. Similar conditions near Toronto, Pearson at 2 degrees, but a little cooler over there, feeling like -4. 680 News Time, 9:33.
Now for the official National Weather Service forecast for the Washington metro area and the surrounding KHB listening
Glass
area.
ceilings have been broken.
Tonight,
Do
partly
you
cloudy
realize?
until midnight, then clearing. Lows in the lower 40s. Northwest
2021.
5 to 10 miles an hour.
1980s,
25 miles an hour.
90s, 2000s,
Monday,
2010s, 2020s.
Highs in the
5
mid-60s.
calendar decades.
Northwest wind
5
5 to 10 miles
calendar.
an hour with
The
gusts
glass
up to
ceiling
20
has
miles
been
an hour.
broken.
Monday night.
Wow, you're
mostly
fucking
clear.
stupid.
Lows in the upper 40s.
I'm not even gonna get into why.
Southwest wind
I'm not
5
even gonna
to
get
10
into why.
miles
No, I
an
got
hour.
no patience or tolerance till I smoke this. So. You think glass ceilings were broken because of the Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, whatever? You're out of your fucking mind.
So there is no fucking useful media input for me tonight, so I don't think I have much use. I'll try, but I don't think I have much useful for you.
I like starting comedy.
Here's a great idea for a talk show. We'll talk to comedians, but we won't let them do comedy. Useless.
We won't even let them explore the subject of comedy in a useful way. I don't know what to fucking do. I might as well turn this off again. What the fuck do I do? But I will smoke this joint. It's, you better be good, man. I'll be upset. You better be good or I won't get high. That's about as far as that goes. I'm gonna put this in perspective. Way back in the day, characters that were black were played by white people putting whatever on their face, blackface, shoe polish, whatever. Actual black people that got into movies didn't get a credit. And that blackface thing, there's like, I don't know, black voice, I guess, on the fucking radio. Same thing. Like that Jack Benny show, Rochester. I love the character. I don't see how it could possibly actually be a black guy in real life. It's probably a old, white, probably Jewish man. It's probably who it is. Not that blacks aren't Jewish too. The most I could be off here, but there's a huge black Jew diaspora in Ethiopia, for example. Which cigarette is it? Yeah. In gay porn, the actors are all straight. That's right. Black people can't get paid to be black. Gay porn, if you're gay, you will never end up being a porn star. They want straight dudes to do it. Why? Because the people in charge love distorting everything. The glass ceiling has been broken because this woman put on the perfect doll image and let men control the strings that pull her around and everything. Bullshit. Who made the movies? You're still trying to prove that the people at the top of the entertainment industry are rapists. Everybody knows it, but you're still trying to do it in court. Okay. What glass ceiling been broken? What glass ceiling has been broken then? The reference comes from the 80s, 70s or 80s or something, probably earlier than that. It was exceptionally popular in the 80s. And it was easy to visualize a glass ceiling. Like there's a woman working in an office, glass ceiling. There's the boardroom above her. Did lots of editorial cartoons and shit in my life.
The same size as a blow dry. Never true in your rap. Do some damn right. Great job making spit through the wire. And you don't supply shit to the fire.
Motherfucker.
I'm the king again, rap, call me sire.
Dry on the outside, wet on the inside. What the fuck is wrong with you? You know how much fucking mold you grow doing that shit? Now here's where people get it twisted. I'd say that bitch about the way they dry on the outside, wet on the inside, comment about mold. Idiots think they're gonna make me drop dead with mold. He's complaining because he's gonna. No, I'll smoke it anyway. You see me though. In 22 fucking years, 2 weeks ago was the first time I ever saw mold visibly on the weed. And from the piece that I pulled it out of, I don't think anybody that handled it would have seen it either. Like when I broke it open, I was the first person to see that. What'd I do? I smoked it. Did it kill me? No. Will it kill some people? Yeah. Especially sickle cell, HIV, cancer, all those things. Yeah.
Down, bells only shell, so switching up. Something like a bus driver still picking up. Got your hands in your pocket, nigga, stick 'em up. All the projects, money's no objects. So we finger fuck Max and we podcast. Slide in, slide out, go, we ride out, down, go. I go round that you don't count. Standing up till I sit down.
Threads,
on the ground,
open bolt. Look at the texture on this shit here. They don't make them like this anymore. It was single fire, not it was semi, not full.
Bitches get smacked face down when I'm breaking her back. Yo, we got metal like a rap, made a name in rap. I ain't setting it for track. Yo, I'ma need me a bag for that C-O-L.
This is dispensary. I can already tell it's gonna suck. This idiot gets really good shit every so often, then switches immediately back to the dispensary weed, and he acts like he doesn't want to be a dealer, but then does every fucking dealer trick that there is. Like fucking retardation shit, man. I'm gonna have to leave this sit out for a second to dry out evenly. It's fucking ridiculous. The center of the buds is wet, the outside is dry. With it still wet, he still weighs it as short as he possibly can. Will not fucking, if you tell him that weed yesterday was really good, he'll never buy it again. Fucking idiots.
Stop the madness, I'm real up, get it gone. Magic, I don't sleep like I don't got a night. Don't send your ain't class. Didn't see prom, not run up on them close. I ain't going wrong, but I'm clear blood strong till it drips on my palm. Till it highly changes and blow to me arms from stages. Sicker than stars, I ain't famous, but I'm a hot star. I'll snap, crack, pop like camera. I'll snap, run up, just hide when I let her. Run man in the mask, man in the act, man with the strap to your man's vision black. With the same dog and I snap, all the G's for YGs. Scroll clap, we clap, do you come and try me? 70s and 90s, been moving grimy. Blood rush till it's hooked up to the ivy.
4 or 5 will stretch you, and they think it's drunk until they end up on the stretcher. Better get a coffin, yo, Christians. So we ain't in a no long talking. Money overflow, back on my bullshit. These punks that I grew with, acting like you're too sick, too slow. Cash making me ever switch sides. Or babble till the jakes almost get my crunch fried, huh? My mind's fried. See, I don't give a fuck. Skank it with a YG, guarantee we hit them up. Take a nigga slut, man, you know me. Never look back since my first pack in 03. Pack nigga, plus I get busy with these OGs screaming Southside, outside all the police. Fucked up when I nipped 1.5 a beast. Snakes and cop chops. Now you owe me 10 J's. Green till I go to sleep. Till you for the 80K.
That's not a third of a gram, bro.
What the fuck's a murder one? Bad news if you run into the DBS. All I do is give one nod and he breathes the tech. And he breathes the tech. All I do is give one nod and he breathes the tech. We the Koreans got the shooters behind me. I hold you so wide, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep, no nigga. We are what? Won't matter who it is, bound to get the job done. We the Koreans got the shooters behind me. I hold you so wide, the 70s and 90s. So don't sleep, nigga. We are what? Don't matter who it is, bound to get the job done.
Fucking hell. I don't know what Chomo thinks he's gonna do. Dead giveaway, bro. If I say Chomo, your name, Angry Chomo, we know, we can see what you're doing already. That's not the time for you to start doing it more. We already know what you're doing. We don't care. Okay, so we have a stalker / hacker that harasses us. I say us because if you found any use at all in these videos, somebody trying to destroy them all the time should concern you a little bit. But if you don't, then it doesn't matter to you. So, like I just said that things undercount and it's wet and it's not that good. Somehow, buddy thinks that that'll be the key because the weed I smoke is so strong it puts me in heroin withdrawal. It gives me schizophrenia. This is what they've been. It's written on pieces of paper in my files, on files regarding or concerning. Keep doing it, bro. Fucking retard.
Sure, man, gotta fix up quick.
You don't know what we do. The pedal's good. We throw superintendents off buildings. That's a nice sudden thing, eh? You don't know what we do with pedophiles, eh? There's a reason you're still alive, stupid. You've been smoking meth out of light bulb for how long? Where do you think that money goes, stupid? It buys the guns my boys put to your head when we were kids, dumbass. I lie. We stole those from the cops. Beat up the cops and stole their Glocks. It's not a joke. You can look that up.
Yeah. Sorry, man, I gotta fix up quick. The general. Are you dumb? Better who, when, where, never. I let my dreads hang, put 12K where my teeth at. If you're shorty fiending, then I might just have to fix. I'm the shopper's drug mart booming in the 6. How you get?
There was a man that came to Toronto at the age of 8. When he's a bit older, he's selling crack up around Eglinton, Trinity, whatever. 2 cops wandering through. This is before security cameras in buildings. 2 cops wandering through an apartment building come across this guy. They want to stop him. He doesn't want to stop. He pulls out the gun. Bang, bang, bang. Killed the first cop. Almost killed the second one. Depending on which one's first or second. The bullet went in the back of the bulletproof vest, the opening, across the back, and then out the other side. If that hadn't happened, both those cops would have died. It'd still be unsolved. The man that did that gave me a sweater, eh? Not this one. Oh, he's in jail. He's being deported. He's this, he's that. Yeah, but in the meantime, they get bail.
Out the mud, community housing, north side of the Rex, places you weren't allowed in. Bitches used to laugh at the kid, not want to see me. Told her put these on so you can see me coming and preview. Forrest Gump into the money, you looking like Bueller. If it's not for everybody, I had to maneuver. We were shooting for the stars, that was not where they were shooting. I go Bob the Builder for the fix up if you acting funny. Yeah.
Are you dumb?
Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. A nigga wrote a statement on me. Who can I trust? No, my mom's.
By the way, the cop that died, most crookedest cop in the history of Toronto.
Denying the women show.
At that point. And it's also about 5 years after Mark Saunders started as an undercover cop. Mark, the Dark Narc Saunders, black guy with the white guy voice. Right. To throw you off when he shows up. Oh, what the fuck is it?
It was just us.
You laugh and you serve them and then you go to jail, don't you? That pussy's been picking on me for 38 years because why? They're honor. My brother's mother don't like him. That's it. My brother's mother was a black Toronto police officer, or was, however you want to phrase it. And no, I don't know her. How would I? Dumbass.
She wanna be my playboy bunny. I guess I'm huge. I came from the Rex where they good with the text. SMS got a text. Now your wife giving neck. Are you dumb? It's don't get close. It's don't get close. So we the gang. It's don't get close. You will get smoked.
Dude, it's soaking fucking wet.
I'll shoot his chest. I'll shoot his back. It's don't get close. It's don't get close. So we the gang. Roll dog. Be the hardest stone. Y'all butter sock. Block party turning up to the dogs locking up. All of them be talk a lot. See them and they nodding back. Matching if I hide a map. Know what I will do to all. Go on the clock. I'll be bringing back the Holocaust. Hit them up. Long distance. No calling time. When I pop it up. Treat me like a movie star. Now she wanna love me cause I'm back from the metal bar. Cocaine white. Like I'm walking around with cotton buds. Treat it like an acrobat. Flipping and I'm stretching down. Niggas talking like they G. All they do is rap beat. Talking all that shit a bit on Snap DVD. Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. Better who, when, where, never. Are you done?
There are more examples of people outsmarting themselves. Besides that joint, YouTube, all these companies. Facebook just destroyed their app on my device here because there's no way to roll it back. And no matter what you do to try to fix it, it gets worse. All right, a 40 megabyte app needs 310 megabytes of room for what? I'm going to sit here and do nothing. Everybody's trying to outsmart everybody. I'm going to just watch you all outsmart everybody, fall down, die, and then I'll pick your pockets. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. As I set this on top of the camera and the TV or something here to dry off. I can't believe how fucking wet that is. I don't know why they think nobody's going to notice that. First, we can feel it when the fucking outside's crunchy and the inside's squishy. And when you inhale it, it's like sucking off steam out of the shower or something. Fucking ridiculous. And no, I can't vaporize it. That's useless. It's completely useless. I know all you geniuses vaporizing better. You should vaporize. And all you got popcorn lung and cancer and shit. Then you fucking batteries exploding in your face. All that shit, right? I'll wait 5 minutes. It'll be drier. I hope. The heat makes the water evaporate. So all I'm getting is a fucking cloud of fucking water in my fucking mouth.
Around more freely. But as our Jared Launchbury reports, some experts aren't sure that concept will fly here in Canada.
The move by Denmark was made to inject some life into the devastated travel and tourism industry. It would mean people no longer have to quarantine upon returning from other countries and more.
This is potentially opening a real Pandora's box.
That's Kara Zwiebel with the Canadian Civil Liberties Association. She says a vaccine passport would likely be met with significant opposition in Canada and legal challenges.
We're not mandating vaccination, but if we make access
because it might make things worse for poor people than black people. Oh, which isn't true, but she says that, so they'll bring it out anyway. The reason is because it won't work. You know such thing as a vaccine passport.
To introduce a vaccine passport.
You're not immune.
Acknowledged it could be key for the return of safe international travel. I'm Jared Launchbury.
How many generations of my family got to live next to uranium before you believe me? The 5-year survival rate for liver cancer, which can come up from anything. Liver cancer is, well, not any, but if you know cancers, you know what I'm talking about. The 5-year survival rate is 1 out of 5, 20%. 4 out of 5 will be dead within 5 years. My father had it 14 years. Beat it twice. Third time it got to his brain, his whole body. But what kills you is what hits your brain, basically. Simplifying. I'm a waiting room oncologist. That's what I am. So those vaccines, those vaccine passports won't work. So here's what happened. We find out there's a virus, and the only way to stop it from spreading, because there is no other way to beat it, is to supposedly to lock down, because people won't fucking follow the rules otherwise. And now everybody's going on and on. How can we get around this lockdown? How can we get around? We got to open back up and ignore the virus. Nobody's talking about enforcing the rules we already have. If I put you in a situation that could harm your life or endanger your life or hurt you, it's $1 million fine. Right. But people throwing blood in my face. Well, because he's a pedophile that tries to rape you as a child, we're not going to charge him. I didn't ask you to charge him. I asked you to collect the video. I didn't ask you to go on and on about how I don't need an HIV test. That's an odd thing to start the conversation with, officer. It's on your gang police officer cameras, isn't it? Oh, yeah, that video is about 8 or 10 months before those officially came out, right? Right. But they've been using the cameras in the city 15 years, but they haven't. But they haven't, right? They send those to, because the Toronto police ain't even supposed to be interacting with us. The RCMP watches us. So the local police can't be standing next to us all the goddamn. They can do their job or whatever. They can't just pick us up, oh, we're going to bother you today. No, you can't. The RCMP can't get us clear shot, stupid.
Voice and data plans, only with Fido. Visit a Fido store or fido.ca for details.
And time for traffic and weather together on the ones. Here's Craig here.
This report is brought to you by Lexus of Oakville Construction. No delays right now, though. Eastbound 401 at Morningside in the Express, you have 2 left lanes closed, and then the collector to Express transfer is shut down east 401 east of Port Union. No construction as of yet on the westbound side of the 401. 40 rebound QEW at Plains Road, 2 right lanes are closed. And the southbound North Shore ramp to the 40 rebound QEW closed as well. South 427 at Highway 7, 2 left lanes are closed off and 1 ramp closure. It's the eastbound Eva Road ramp to the South 427. For a limited time, lease a 2021 IS 300 all-wheel drive F Sport Series 1 at 2.9% for 39 months with bi-weekly payments from $228. See lexusofoakville.ca.
2.9%.
10:01 with the forecast.
Luxury vehicles are already the most marked up. They should have the lowest interest rates.
GTA, and we have sustained winds between 20
And you didn't tell us the amount of the lease.
Anywhere between 50 to 60 kilometers.
Here's your payments and interest rate. Yeah, for how fucking long, bro?
Feeling like -6, and we do have a frost advisory.
What's the buyback?
For the city of Toronto and the
The
Niagara region.
damn
Sunny at 11 for tomorrow.
wear and tear.
Tomorrow evening, a chance for some showers, and continuing into the overnight, a low of 4. 15 on Tuesday, more clouds and sun. Windy, cooler by the lake with that lake breeze and some evening rain showers. And then 20 degrees for Wednesday, cloudy with rain. Tonight's overnight low, -1.
It's 3 degrees right now in downtown Toronto with a partly cloudy sky. Similar conditions at Pearson Airport and 2 degrees. Coming up at 10 o'clock, the latest from the biggest night in Hollywood. Our James Mackin will join us with the very latest winners from the 93rd Academy Awards. 680 News Time, 9:53.
SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, but SEO also stands for suspect, expensive, and outdated. Stop wasting money on SEO only to end up last or lost in Google searches. Instead, have Search Kings develop an online
Because they've got the
marketing
best
strategy
Google
that will
rating.
generate
What a coincidence.
real leads with transparent pricing and no contracts. Stop losing at Google Search Hide and Seek. You want to stand out where your customers are online? Switch to Search Kings.
Be the first to know
The moment it happens.
with 680 News breaking news alerts.
Powered by the Monitor and
They
Center
don't
Home
work.
Security.
Now partnered with Tag Dispatch.
Subscribe now.
At 680news.com.
Canadian tennis phenom Bianca Andreescu has been forced to
soon. 2 years from now, maybe. Who knows? It sure feels like that right now in Ontario. And of course, Alan Karras, you of course have a podcast that you want to plug in, and where can people find some of your stuff and catch you?
So my website is
I should have waited I should have busted it up, then waited the 5 minutes, and then rolled it. Oh, fucking hell.
Motherfucking police. Always
Oh, dear, yes. I know there's going to be non-stop glitches. Holy fuck, bro.
Yeah. Sorry, man, gotta fix up quick. The general. Are you dumb? Better who, when, where, never fix up. I let my dread hang, put 12K where my teeth at. If you're shorty fiending, then I might just have to fix. I'm the shopper's drug mark booming in the 6. How you get it? Out the mud, community housing. North side of the rest, places you weren't allowed in. Bitches used to laugh at the kid, not wanna see me. Told her put these on so you can see me coming in 3D. Forrest Gump into the money, you looking like Bueller. Where you famous, not for everybody, I had to maneuver. You were shooting for the stars, that was that where they were shooting. I go pop the builder for the fix up if you acting funny. Yeah.
Are you dumb?
Certain mans get crushed on road and keep it hush. A nigga wrote a statement on me, who can I trust? My mom's a night in a women's shelter, it was just us. A man trying to comfort a kid, I told him head back. Before they start aiming at your head back. You get that? Backhand the back of your head, they tell you head back. They wanna let they sick in the head, but then we get that. I'm trying to put a foreign on road, and then we head that. Going down like Titanic, it's high, find where her head at. Keep a young mind with me, that would make you say, ooh. 4-1 to the west, bumping that day east. Yes, nigga. Learn take it. Free Slim, be out here. Don't get close, nigga. We the Caribbean grilling shooters behind us. She said, why the 70s and 90s? So don't sleep, no, nigga. We are what? Won't matter who it is, bound to get the job done. We the Caribbeans got the shooters behind us. OGs, so why the 70s and 90s? So don't sleep, nigga. We are what? Don't matter who it is, bound to get the job done. On the same shit, with the same click, never gonna change, no, nigga. Only change show. And the cool, but only if it's fucking up. Play some aiming niggas above the button. Working hard in the paint, no patch a fucking up. Repatch a clip, that to get our shit up. Only other hot shit is a stick up. Never a 9 to 5, cause I ain't got no day job. From the slums, little homie, where we play hard. If you don't wanna see the 30-30 when it sprays off. The 22 walk around 3/8 for the beef. The 40 to lay them down, the max for the easy. Heard niggas saying but they wanna make tracks with us. Before that, didn't even crack to us. Going hard in the booth, it's a takeover. Hard and the ground into your face, that's a makeover. 2 and 5 for a Q. The rest profit. Hustlers mine say won't sleep till I knock it. And don't push me cause I ain't in the top game. 12-year-old too, so I ain't scared if you got it. Y'all got it. Is it me you comparing to? I ain't finished my fair share yet, but I aired them just started. And I ain't talking about no jump shot, brush them off, go top. You know the cold on my tracks. Didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my traceable. Didn't think I was capable. 4-5 pipe on my it isn't traceable.
You niggas gon' ride something like a black tire. Aim the fire at your back, it was a backfire. Cause my gas the same size as a blow dry. Never true in your raps, it's some damn lies. A great job, make 'em spit through the wire. And you don't supply shit, you a buyer. I'm the king of gang rap, call me sire. That's hate, for revenue you rate and admire. Tell the truth, your rubber grip tight, no pliers. I gotta take you out, probably quit, so retire. The fourth room down, fifth left from up.
What are you doing? No, but there's no logic to what you're doing, dumbass. You're constantly pinging our shit with no logic to it.
All the projects, money's no objects. So we finger fuck max and we contact. Slide in, slide out.
Big genius idea today. Start 1 minute early. Wow, bro.
Decided up till I tell them sit down. So me digging in your pants, give me that in your grip. He said, check the weed, leave the cash. What? I'ma do him dirty.
So I mentioned you're doing it, so you double down a little more. You're a fucking genius. You wonder why chomos get caught all the time, man, because you're stupid.
Yo, I'ma need me a bag for that same OLT. Carved in my rack, still unstolen. Stereo scratch on my actions. Stop the madness, I'm real up, get it gone. Mad shit, they can't go sleep like I don't got a night show. Then you're in class, didn't see prom, now run up on them close. I ain't gone, but I'm clear, blood strong till it jumps on my head.
What are you doing, Chomo? What makes you think showing me what you want to see of me is going to make me do something? How fucking stupid are you?
M3. Gully side veterans.
This fucking idiot won't fucking give up,
Gully side veterans. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, 6 and
You're not thorough. For a pedophile stalker, you're not thorough. Yeah, every time I go to interact with it, the menu is going to drop out the way. Okay. Well, I'm still going to say the same thing, dumbass. I'm going to wait till it actually works and go to say it. You're not smart, Chomo. I said you were about to do this when you started. You're dumb. You keep showing me edited pictures of me. Dude, I'm almost 40. You've been obsessed for 30 fucking years. You should be showing edited pictures of me as a child. Not now. That makes no sense. You keep showing me the picture like I give a fuck. Why the fuck would I give a fuck? You're showing me what you created, produced out of your head. That don't say nothing about me. It reflects on you. All the weirdo shit you do reflects on you. Nobody else. 3 fucking minutes of this shit. Holy fuck. Oh, and by the way, I almost didn't mention because I've said it over and over. Why are tech companies and the police helping pedophiles harass their intended victims? That makes no sense. I'm on 6 charges, 3 bails right now for not being raped by a pedophile when I was a kid. Like I'm being punished for this shit. This is what the fucking deal is.
Yeah. Eastside. GSC. M3. Gully side veteran. Gully side veterans. Gully side veterans. Gully side veterans.
Go check the old hit billing records. What days and times this piece of shit was on his passes from 1001 Queen Street. Go ahead, go check.
veterans. They wanna lock us down for extended periods of time. You can catch my body, but never catch my mind. I want my money up front. No half shit. Smoke a blunt to the end. Leave the ashes back to the store. Cup of Henny, need a backwards. Crack a 40.
Let's drink and slow it up, hit the block still wavy.
Driving slow as fuck before my young boys get you. Hope the Lord do run upon me. Yeah, that's war, fool, combat and all that. Then you fall back out here with some real niggas. Call it blood hunt, you can get killed, nigga. But we good cause you ain't doing good at my hood. It's what the hood want. You can work harder, but good isn't good enough.
It's soaking wet. It's so fucking wet, it won't burn for it.
Pocket stick getting cooking up. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, M3 GS, them gully side veterans. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, East side nigga, we them gully side veterans. Still bombing this bitch, bro, shit up like landmines. I'm on the page, niggas for holding the wrong gang sign. Regular shit turn ugly, rugged niggas move monkey. Trace text Foxy.
What is this?
Yeah. Crickets Inc. Ghetto government officials. Daredevils, nigga. Original. Here's what you get, and now I never switch, kid. Been one of the realest, y'all niggas in your village. Respect means more than anything a word say. Think I give a fuck about anything you nerds say. You trying to do what did that? Throw back like Thursday. I want you in your job and split up your mouthpiece. I already know I wrote with the realest from out east. Come on, to the village. Come on, to verse everyone. It's me versus my dad like I'm the blind with a heavy gun. It's on when I found over. Got respect for real niggas in Toronto. Thinking it's cutthroat, not decapitation. I'm back to my roots, like emancipation. Know yourself, that's my proclamation. You might see me spaz out, that means I lost my patience. Benny Crocker in the room, cooked open, got the apron. It's cutthroat, nigga. Knife till you chug it up. I'm not over everyone, that means I don't fuck with you. Cutthroat, nigga. It's Biggie by my lonely. I can't trust a soul, not even my thoughts are my homies. It's cutthroat, nigga. Knife till you chug it up. Come on, over everyone, that means I don't fuck with you. Cutthroat, nigga. It's me by my lonely. I can't trust a soul, not even my thoughts are my homies. Niggas know that Pando. Me and Double DD. Fight when the Fed roll. Never talking knocks and never requiring a friend zone. Never talking knocks, no fuck. They the friend zone, that dead shit. Your bitch bent over, I'm watching Netflix. I act with the same cats from back then that I crept with. Don't set it. My niggas got a lot from here to get with. I said this. Niggas know I'm hype and that's how space get. Don't run gas and over nigga. Green red cheese,
more white boys to get it.
Running the rover nigga. Your fake face is like 31 October nigga. Your nigga ratted and he's hiding in Cordova nigga. Okay, tough guy. Tell me how you done shit. And how you trigger happy and bucket off the done shit. And how you sit back and rap about your gun lid. You made 50 rap for pussy son in one bitch. Cutthroat nigga. Knife till you jump it up. Come on, over everyone, that means I don't fuck with you. Cutthroat nigga. It's Biggie by my lonely. I can't trust a soul, not even my thoughts, not my homies. It's cutthroat nigga. Knife till you jug it up. Come on, over everyone, that means I don't fuck with you. Cutthroat nigga. It's me by my lonely. I can't trust a soul, not even my thoughts, not my homies.
I'll paste that in a sec. I never saw that before. Filmed in parks like north of this town, but never mind. You either know or you don't.
Yeah. Eastside. GSC. M3. Gully side veteran. Gully side veterans.
Gully side veterans.
Gully side veterans.
A little. It won't last long. I already know it won't last long. Fuck.
Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, M3GS, them. Gully side veteran, Gully side veteran. Me and my bitch like John F. Kennedy, Maryland. We still selling that white power, we call it arrogance. I'm like, when I carry in a trade by M3G, I'm in a strategy, playing good Samaritan, listening to Barrington. We no respect nobody like an American. Talk like a what, my niggas just never hearing him. Nope. Throwing up signs like a deaf guy. Make them crash the truck like left eye. Niggas had their chance, so maybe next time. How you get that shot charge? Didn't get time. I was locked up doing dead time. Now I'm free as a bird, it's like a jet flying. You need medication, but I got medicine. This shit hit like an earthquake when it level him. Yo, no some real bad boy, what's the Eglinton? And some real white boys, what's the Fredericton? My Maseka, them bringing up the Remington. Bunch of fake niggas fighting like wrestling. Blood clot. I'm a dollar side veteran, nothing like a rookie. Them boys can't handle my work. Slang cookie, still slang cookie. Red eye, leave your face black and blue like Tookie. My thing clap it dark since I left Chucky. Better ask about Charlie, he got mad juppies. Like Sierra got goodies, bullets off stubbies. Walking through the streets in my trade file hoodie. I'm a gully side veteran. Niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, M3GS, them. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling.
I 006 your bitch like I was traveling. Couldn't say both if you bragged up on 07 and you couldn't light shit up. If you were Thomas Edison and all these MCs just suck, there's no comparison. No, can't see these niggas, I'm like a blind guy. Nobody cares since I drop dry cry. When I say I'm connected, there's no Wi-Fi. When I walk in the building, it's like sci-fi. I'm the best in this bitch, nigga, like white light. But boy, I started with try shy. You need a hookup, baby girl, I got all of that. Fucking right in the pussy, I make her holler back. Charlie boy, he ain't nothing to kill something. Since a young boy, I ain't gon' chill button. Boy, stab me up, I ain't feel nothing. 13 stabs and it's still nothing. J Spats and J Banco, they got an angle. I bought 18 wet bitches just on the banquet. New leather clutch and the suede and the kangaroo. If you that L shit, niggas better be thankful.
Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, M3GS, them. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling. Gully side veteran, niggas know who we better than. Club night, 10 deep, stick the knife in the meddling.
Phil is ready for you.
Hello there. Fucking with TS Travis.
And one thing that you talked about is focusing on self-care and making yourself.
Hey, my arm hurts. How you doing? All right. Bro. Come on, chill. I gotta go back to my house. For what? I ain't seen no this time. Man, you been looking for me. What I do? Son, it's a wrap.
I might die for this shit, nigga. I done homicides just on Crip, nigga. Gang banging that Crip shit. Niggas calling up cause of them blue shades.
My people, it was right behind and no nigga pulling up in no new rave. It was cool to the gang raid. Now these tough guys just never act right. Blood can fill a whole bathtub. Let these blood brothers get baptized. Blacklisted on the bad guy, plus some dark skin, so I'm the black guy. Never see me like black ice, and we still pack cannons at shack side. Niggas swear they the man, but the light skin brother like, really what you talking about? Niggas say you in the can, try to kill him on the track, let the people still track him up. I ain't trust anybody that'll walk around. Popcorn, only reason that they popping up. Niggas skins on my shoes like crocodiles. They know they fucking with me like a crocodile. Gang. Yelling that shit that you never been a part of. I know niggas I got waiting for the startup. D-Rose and they ain't even put his cut up. Not one person goes hard for the city, got a mainstream level. Talk about the top of sense product. Show me if they ever seen a bike that is hot up. Knock me out and mad that I got him. CTCP relay, the nigga just a product. Think he's styling on you cause you seen him in his product. Big gun bust from a nigga like a marker. Party next door, need a shot in the park. Till Jay Prince, I don't give a fuck, yo. Fighting for a rap with a cup though. Quitting in a round and it's up.
Right now in downtown Toronto, partly cloudy and 3 degrees, feeling like -1. It's 2 degrees, feeling like -3 with a partly cloudy sky at Pearson Airport. And Americans are starting to dress up again after months of keeping it casual due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Dresses are in demand at retailers like Macy's, Nordstrom, and Anthropology as proms and weddings resume. American Eagle Outfitters says it's seeing pent-up demand from teens. And more than half of U.S. consumers plan on buying clothes in the coming months, according to market research firm NPD. But designers are wondering if those pre-pandemic structured styles will ever make a comeback.
This is news. This is advertising.
Flowy fabrics and looser looks. And upscale brand Lafayette 148 New York says they're designing more multi-purpose clothing that can go from day to night. Uni Han, ABC News.
Still to come on 680 News, a look at your top stories in sports. 680 News time, 10:13.
You'll hear it here first.
Breaking news when it happens.
On 680 News.
With the Daily Grand Auto, you can win $1,000 a day for life.
Wait, every single day?
Yeah.
So I'd start liking Mondays?
Probably.
But everybody hates Mondays.
Dedicated this like I promised and I had
You fucking damn it. What the fuck?
Childhood, and I didn't think that I could have done that not sober, so I really needed to have be really clear-headed.
$750 Honda bonus. Ontario is something we can all be proud to be a part of and support. Includes freight and fees for 60 months, taxes extra, OAC. Made with domestic and imported parts. By appointment only. Ontario.
From my childhood. And
I just threw you off over here. Hold on.
This is 680 News.
Was I saying Mike Dredd all day? These guys in downtown Toronto. Good evening. I'm Michelle Halim. And I'm Veronica Thor. Here are the top stories right now. Going on right now in Los Angeles, it's Oscar night, and our James Mackin is covering the entire show live. So stay tuned.
The first birth control clinic in Britain in the 1920s. So there was also a gender power dynamic at play.
That the menopause or the crisis of menopause is a manufactured crisis, and it's been created by male doctors.
At least as early as the 1930s, pharmaceutical labs were making hormone replacement therapies, pills and creams that delivered sex hormones back into a woman's body in order to reduce menopausal symptoms. Some of the manufacturers of these products had absolutely no qualms about taking the lowest of all available low roads.
The good one is Endocreme or Endocream, which was advertised in medical journals, but also in women's magazines. And there's the most glamorous photograph of a blonde, and she's staring up at her sort of Clark Gable-esque husband, and he's looking down at her, and she's obviously applied the Endocream, rubbed it well in, because you can't see it. But the tagline is, how long is it since he said, I love you? The thing is, ladies, don't get older and don't have a menopause, because men will no longer love you.
But what they're playing
in the U.S., the number one prescription in the 80s and 90s was a hormone pill called Premarin. Since then, there's been a lot of controversy about hormone replacement therapy. Some studies have associated it with increased rates of cancer and other serious health risks.
I didn't knock that off. The last 3 days
let's leave the chemistry and horrifying marketing copy behind for a moment and head instead for open water. It's time to talk whales.
I'm Darren Croft. I work at the University of Exeter, and I'm a professor in animal behaviour.
Exeter?
Your specialty technically is behavioral ecology.
Yes. It's the study of behaviour in an ecological setting, so understanding how the environment has shaped the behaviour of animals.
Does that essentially mean that you're also studying the way that animals interact with each other and with their large...
And of course, it's going to be the guy teaching the girl. They didn't delve into all the advertising psychology they could have just now, but they went straight into doing it. Fucking hell. That is so fucked up. There's just more of that CRI. Tell me that reading's bad for women. Tell me that again.
I've been waiting for the tickets with the teary eyes.
Yeah.
So, of course, that guy must have been really disappointed.
Did you say?
I mean, Nietzsche's a coward.
Same as your dad.
Why?
Don't you think your dad is always on his side?
Yes.
De produits à petit prix. Selon les statistiques, aujourd'hui, je pense que Ouaga consomme en moyenne autour de 100 000 têtes de volaille par jour, en moyenne. Ça, c'est des statistiques qui datent quand même de longtemps. Et aujourd'hui, je pense que la consommation a augmenté. Un peu partout à Ouaga, dans les ruelles, vous trouvez des coins de grillades à côté des buvettes. Et aussi des restaurants. Et le poulet bisquelette du Burkina est vraiment renommé. Tout le monde aime ça. Même ceux qui ont un petit revenu arrivent quand même à s'en acheter. Donc, c'est vraiment un produit qui est beaucoup consommé. Et donc,
Why would you put yourself at risk? And worst, someone else.
The province reported 63 new cases of COVID-19 today, which is the highest single-day spike since the pandemic first emerged last spring. You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. Physical distancing circles are coming back to Trinity Bellwoods Park. The circles were met with mixed reaction when they first appeared last summer. But the city says that they're
left foot. In fact, you only have to count to one.
To get outside
left foot, right
staying
foot.
6 feet apart.
Left foot, right
They
foot.
continue
2
to
steps.
urge
That's all it
residents to adhere
takes.
to the stay-at-home order and only leave home for
Or maybe,
essential
okay, so
purposes.
for me, you have to understand, my pace is almost precisely a meter. No matter how many times it averages almost precisely, it must, because the pedometer is correct.
And would you feel differently if
In
it
terms
meant
of
being
how far
able to
I walk.
attend concerts and travel without quarantining? Our Jared Launchbury tells us while Canada is still reluctant, Denmark has given it the green light.
No more quarantine, being able to go to concerts, those are some of the things a vaccine passport is supposed to enable, but it's not as simple as just introducing one and life suddenly returning back to normal.
Proof of vaccination gets you access to different things, and we have to recognize that we're probably going to be leaving a lot of people behind.
We'll break down some bullshit
With
here.
the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, she says a vaccine passport would coerce a lot of people into getting vaccinated. Mount Royal University professor and tourism expert Joe Pavelka says it could be a near-term
Not as many as who
solution to
would
inject
not
life
get
into the
vaccinated
travel and
on
tourism
purpose to
sector.
counter that effect, because we know what you're up to.
Assurance that everyone is looking for in order to open up a bit of tourism.
I'm Jared Launchbury.
These are the same people.
Coming up, traffic and weather together. 680 News Time, 1020.
When you donate your unwanted vehicle to Kidney Car, all
These are the same people that will tell you what I'm about to read you is true. Okay, so why is there a footnote? Why the fuck is there a footnote? Because this is just advertising. I'll just read it. Stays fresher longer naturally. Footnote 1. Uh-oh. Footnote 1. Guaranteed to stay fresh for 15 days. 15 days. More than our regular pasteurized milk when refrigerated and unopened. When refrigerated and unopened. Hold on. And read you the next 2 to 4 lines. It's English and French. The UHT pasteurized. Pasteurisé. UHT. Keep refrigerated. Garde au réfrigérateur. Did you tell them already? I'll tell them. UHT pasteurized stands for ultra high temperature. Ultra high temperature is the same as what's in the little creamers, basically. And I believe it's what's in the cans. I could be wrong on that. It doesn't have to. However they do it doesn't matter. But the little creamers that you go to 7-Eleven, you used to be able to just reach in and get them. And they always put ice on top. And the ice comes from an ice machine that's hooked up to a water filter. So there's no chlorine in this water. That's right. Perfectly clean water until you touch it. No chlorine. All the bacteria in your hands growing on it. They keep putting ice on it all day. Ultra high temperature pasteurized means it does not need to be refrigerated. It can sit at room temperature. I would presume the same amount of time as the normal milk could stay till the best before date. Ultra high temperature means it doesn't have to be refrigerated. No, but they have to contaminate every single one of them. You wonder where coronaviruses come from. That's where that came from. Not that one thing led to this thing. All that type of behavior is what did this. I ask them every time I'm in there, why is there ice on this? Why are you putting dirty water on something that does? And they have the whole bag of them in the cooler. You can see it at the one cooler way at the side that's sort of behind a half a wall or whatever your 7-Eleven set up like. There'd be a big clear garbage bag full of them in the fridge. Why? Why?
4:15 on Tuesday.
You also don't have to refrigerate eggs. That's not bullshit. You go to Australia, the eggs are on a shelf. Chickens heat the eggs up. They don't go rotten.
Near Toronto appears at 2 degrees,
but
room
temperature's going to hurt them.
Feeling like -3. Remember, 680 News is the only radio station with a weather guarantee. Today's jackpot stands at $9,400. Coming up at 10:30, the latest.
You've been right for 90 days without being off by what's 3 out of?
They're celebrating differently and who's winning.
Holy fuck, that's a huge percentage off.
10:23.
Getting you where you need to go.
Faster.
Lost traffic in Toronto.
So almost everybody knows what sour milk, bad milk, curdled milk will smell like, taste like, or look like. You just need one of the three, and it probably won't kill you just a touch. They always talk about natural gas. There's a chemical they add. So if you say the gas smells, natural gas doesn't smell. Neither does liquefied petroleum gas, propane, methane, and propane, natural gas and propane. The cars that roll by here, the 50,000 liter, whatever, 50,000 kilo, whatever the fuck they call it, pressurized tanks of it. It'll say what the product is inside. Liquefied petroleum gas, non-odorized. Don't notice it. You don't even notice it roll by. You're sitting right there. You don't notice it roll by. They have to add a chemical. I forget the proper name off the top of my head, so I'm not going to guess because I'll lead you in the wrong direction. That smells. So if it leaks and it's not ignited, you'll smell it. And it just burns off essentially harmlessly, no more harmful than natural gas or propane itself. What do they always tell you? It smells like, I know I'm crossing a bunch of different issues at once. It smells like rotten eggs. Okay, when's the last time you smelled a rotten egg? Think about it. It's been a long fucking time, eh? When's the last time you smelled gas leaks or propane leaks? You smell that. When's the last time you smelled a rotten egg?
She then reached the
front. We used to have a fundraiser here in Toronto where you could pay, I think it was like $5 to get a dozen eggs or something. I forget. That was a long time. In the early 90s, you throw eggs at the cops. No, perfectly legal. It's a fundraiser. They stand there and take it. You throw fucking rotten eggs at them or whatever. It's the only reference I ever heard to rotten eggs.
680 News Time, 10:25.
I can't think of ever having smelled a rotten egg in my life. I can't remember it.
And you find a door that leads to another room in your basement.
I know, I talked right over your story.
And another. And you have like 4 rooms in your basement. AGM Renovations. Make your dream come true. AGM can turn your basement into a man cave, in-law suite, playroom, home office, home gym, whatever, in just 3 weeks. Call.
So what I find interesting, it says fine filtered lactose. The lactose free is a separate thing. It's something you can get regular ass milk that's lactose free. Fine filtered stays fresher longer naturally. All right, you assume those two things are connected. They're not. There's no connection between the two. Guaranteed to stay fresh longer. And at the bottom, with no footnote, nothing, UHT pasteurized. You don't even, UHT was that, you don't even think about it. You just see the word pasteurized, go, okay, it's safe to drink. There's no connection between their guarantee to stay fresher longer and the fine filtering. It's the UHT pasteurizing.
26. Now the 680 News Business Report. I'm Chris McCusker. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, could be the next big thing. And now you can get in on it. Sing is powered by the Ethereum blockchain. It's a developer of tools which allows creators to control distribution and monetize their work. The company has now launched a free mobile app designed to instantly mint NFTs.
Remember when you used to have to pay money for apps? Some of them, ringtones. Remember paying money for ringtones? No, I never did.
Sing is about protection of intellectual property. In other words, you are able to take a given digital file and prove its existence at a given point in time, which is something that people haven't been able to do before. We built Sing about 2.5 years ago, and we built it around the ERC 721 token. And that is an NFT. It's a unit of.
Is this a variant of COVID? Because otherwise we're not interested.
Could be written notes, could be voice notes, could be anything digital, and we're able to prove its existence. And of course, because it's a token, because it's an NFT, and because it's your property, you can then sell it.
Now, this arena seems to be growing in popularity.
The idea of proving that something is scarce on the internet is a really, really big deal. First, you had to prove the currency was scarce, so you could accept the fact that if I give you one Bitcoin, it really is worth $60,000. That's kind of amazing. Now, with NFTs, you can prove that an object is scarce, that I'm only buying one of them, and that you're the person who can actually sell it to me.
How does the app work?
Right now, you can log on to our app and make NFTs. It's available on iOS. You download it from the App Store.
I want to be a dealer in counterfeit art.
iPhone, you just need an NFT.
No, art that we know is forged. We know it's forged. We're not lying to you. Here's an excellent forgery of a Picasso or a Michelangelo or whatever the fuck.
Take those NFTs and turn around and put them on a marketplace for sale.
No, because you don't have to insure it.
Singidea.com.
Technically.
And at the Business Center, I'm Chris McCusker.
Sitting on your coffee table, what the fuck do you care?
Humans have been pursuing food. First in open
Your friend gets drunk, knocks it over, no big deal. I'll just go back to the, what do we got to come up with a name?
Today, that pursuit.
That's like, I'm going to go for a walk.
So, like buying and selling art that everybody already knows is forged. Because there's a lot of forgeries that passed for like 100 years or more. Even to this day, there's artwork that there's different experts disagree as to who made the fucking painting or whatever.
It's like going for a ride, you know, just as an example.
Yeah, you can distract your brain.
I'll specialize in fake Van
Oh, I'm
Goghs.
cooking, therefore I should be having a glass of wine. If I think, oh, I'm cooking.
No, I will have it to the point where they'll be like,
something else first. By the time I come
shit
back,
done by
I
a
would've
particular
forgotten.
forger will be like the higher level.
I have a kombucha, pretend it's yeah, in a wine glass. Sometimes I do that though. I will trick myself.
Like we won't sort it out by the original artist. We'll sort it out by the forgers.
And I'll put it in a nice glass. We're like,
These guys specialized in this and that.
Cocktail, but I'm not.
We're gonna talk about this is about self-care and being sober. Wow.
But Joan cut out meat.
I don't want to know about it.
I'm Toronto. Listen 3, 4, 5 times a day and always be in the know.
Emphasizes mobilization and significant increase of financial resources
listen.
from all sources.
10:30.
Toronto's #1 for breaking news, traffic, and weather. This is 680 News.
Good evening. This is Sunday, April 25th. I'm Veronica Thor.
And I'm Michelle Halim. Here's what's making news this hour.
Man, Kamal Randy's Black Bottom, Sound of Metal, or could it be something else winning the most Oscars tonight? 680 News is coming.
There was a fucking shooting this morning. 6 people got arrested.
As the city of Toronto climbs past 3,000 deaths from COVID-19, officials are urging residents to get their vaccines as soon as possible.
Could tiny homes be the solution to helping the city's most vulnerable?
No, they're fucking fire traps. You can't do that not building the code shit in a major city or anywhere in Canada. Or Toronto or Ontario. No, you have to list everything. But what about? You can't do that shit.
They lose Hunjin Ryu, but they win their series finale against the.
You say what if a person makes their own house and crawls into it and lives in there, then fine. I can't tell them don't do it. They want to take money from wherever that could be used properly and build these fucking things. They're fire traps. They're little tiny fire traps. Okay, but from the point of view of a homeless person, someone could light you on fire while you're laying on the fucking floor anyway. Been there. Fucking bullshit. Everything's bullshit today.
Stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the fight. Get up, stand up.
Efforts of diplomacy more difficult. A BBC correspondent says it's clear that Javad Zarif didn't expect his remarks to be revealed for many years, and they may well land him in trouble. Military sources loyal to the Yemeni government say rebel Houthi forces have made gains in the battle for the city of Marib, the last significant government stronghold in the north. Military authorities in Chad have rejected a ceasefire offer from the rebels blamed for killing the longtime president Idriss Deby last Monday. A spokesman said this was not the time for negotiation.
You won't take it? Well.
And at an Oscar ceremony in Los Angeles, adapted to conform to coronavirus protocols, Beijing-born Chloe Zhao has become only the second woman ever to win Best Director for her movie Nomadland. The Best Supporting Actress went to Yoon Ye-jo.
It's like literally impossible. So it's so cool. So
a split second faster. Wow, at the end of that sentence.
Yeah, it's huge. But you know, it's like really like I felt like it was such.
Matthew's just rescued his frisbee from the middle of a bush. We're in a park with his dad, Juan.
What the fuck?
It's been great having him at home.
Do you remember the first time that you saw Matt?
Yes. He was.
And Jan Pascal accepting that award. The 1930s and 40s set film also took home a second award for Best Cinematography. Eric Messerschmidt accepted that award, thanking the crew, his wife, and giving special thanks to the cast.
The entire cast, thank you for hitting your marks. They mattered.
Following his win in a commercial break, Harrison Ford took to the floor to present some of his notes for the making of Blade Runner. Quite a nice treat for film fans.
This movie gets worse.
De la campagne qui doit quitter sa famille pour aller travailler pour une société touristique qui offre des derniers voyages sur le monde avant qu'on noie toute cette région. Une région qui est immense parce que elle contient 2 millions de personnes. 15 villes et 116 villages qui seront noyés sous peu. Donc littéralement, c'est la dernière chance de voir ce monde avant qu'il disparaisse sous l'eau. On écoute un extrait du film.
À bord d'un luxueux bateau de croisière, nous remontons le fleuve Yangtze en direction du barrage des Trois Gorges, le plus grand projet hydroélectrique du monde. Les eaux submergent déjà une bonne partie de la région. C'est comme si le Grand Canyon était devenu un grand lac. Lorsque le projet sera complété, on estime qu'environ 2 millions de personnes auront été déplacées.
Et c'est une production de l'ONF, génial, parce que c'est facile à trouver.
Absolument. Et une des accroches du film publicitaire, du film qui résulte bien, c'était la rivière qui efface son passé va écrire son avenir. Et c'est ça la beauté du film, c'est-à-dire que le film est situé vraiment.
Tells us the latest official to chime in is an MPP from Brampton. Last week, the federal government announced it would be suspending all incoming passenger flights from India and Pakistan. This came as dozens of flights from the two countries carried passengers who later tested positive for COVID-19. Associate Minister of Small Business and Red Tape Reduction, Pravneet Sarkaria, says we need to limit all non-essential travel into Canada.
Red tape. Listen how long that name is. That's not a reduction in red tape, stupid.
Canada before new variants, really overwhelm our ICUs completely. We're stretched in our limit due to these new variants, and that's why we need tougher restrictions.
He says the new ban put in place for 30 days doesn't go far enough, as you can still take a connecting flight into Ontario. I'm Jazz Kieran-Cooner. You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. And while officials call for tighter restrictions, a Kitchener woman is just one of many Canadians stranded following the travel ban. Sandeep Sohal says she traveled to India for her father's funeral, and her return flight was scheduled for April 28th, but was canceled following the unexpected announcement.
I swear to God.
There should be transparency. Like, transparency should be there. Like, if someone has come for the funeral or essential trips, you should know that, and you should let those citizens come in.
A spokesperson for the Department of Foreign Affairs tells 680 News, since March 2020, the Government of Canada has and continues to advise against non-essential travel outside of Canada. However, anyone in need of emergency assistance should contact their emergency response center. Prior to the ban, Canadians were allowed to travel for compassionate reasons. 680 News Time, 10:37. Well, you'll want to cover your plants tonight if you're a gardener. Meteorologist Carl Lamb says frost advisory has been issued for Toronto and Niagara.
That's because temperatures will drop below the freezing mark, and as those winds begin to ease, it will allow for that frost to develop. But once we get into tomorrow, it's not looking like there's any frost in the long-range forecast.
The advisory isn't just for the plaintiffs.
You could have said that 2 months ago too, and you'd be lying, you'd be wrong. Motherfucking fact, you've only been 94 days.
Feeling like -6 with the wind.
680
News time, 10:37. Toronto has reached a sobering milestone of 3,000 deaths due to COVID-19. The city is reporting 14 additional deaths today, and that brings the total toll to 3,011.
You're
this
very
comes
creative.
just a month after Toronto held a virtual ceremony to remember all the lives lost to COVID-19.
Okay, if you're Interpol or the RCMP, you're very creative. You've been fucking with this fall
and help prevent
like
further
5 fucking
spread
years.
of the virus. The city also says it's significantly expanding mobile
7
vaccine
years to
team
change. You've been
capabilities
fucking around with
by
it for about
staffing
5
new
years.
mobile
Yes, you
clinic
have.
teams with Toronto paramedics and
Jesus
firefighters.
Christ.
The Ministry of Long-Term Care is trying
You
to free up
misspelled
badly
Indio.
needed
Right?
hospital
Like,
beds. On Saturday, it announced new measures aimed at hospital patients waiting for placement in a long-term care facility. The ministry says the province will waive fees for patients who agree to take a spot in a home that might not be their first choice until they've been placed in a facility they want. It says accepting an alternate placement will affect the patient standing on the waiting list.
The province's long-term care homes charge fees
top doctors, COVID-19 related
to move in or
hospitalizations
some
are
shit. What do you mean?
right across
What kind of
the
fees are we
country.
talking?
Dr. Teresa Tam says the admissions are highest for adults 40 to 59 years of age. You're listening to 680 News. Toronto isn't the only city working on a solution to help its homeless. A Cambridge councillor is pushing for tiny homes, which he says is a cost-effective way to increase affordable housing. Our Luke Schultz.
How many trailers you tow away and destroy yourself to scrap out of this city?
Practices and regulations. Scott Hamilton is hopeful that tiny homes.
Trailers and RVs are built to some sort of safety standard. These things are thrown together by whatever idiots there that day. That's how we ended up with these Victorian-style homes.
Hamilton is the Ward 7 councillor for Cambridge and says his notice is just the first step in ensuring this is done appropriately.
When it comes to issues like affordable housing, homelessness, this will not magically solve all of those issues, but I think it will help to address them. It'll help to get more housing on the market. It might help to depress prices. It'll expand the options for rentals that are out there, and the benefits are substantial.
Hamilton says the introduction of tiny home units in Cambridge could change the way land is used, density is described, and even the way families live together. As he says, the plan is to study the concept and develop policy proposals with the goal of constructing the homes in the city without any issues.
Wikipedia, Century RC 39 AK 47.
Hi, it's
KDSB.
When it comes to
Dollar
streaming
cost
your favorite
averaging.
music, don't let your data plan hold you back. Get a data boost from Fido with 5 hours of unlimited data and no extra cost. That's 5 extra hours of data every month when you need it. It's enough to stream your favorite playlist for 5 long walks outside, or maybe one really long one on all voice and data plans, only with Fido. Visit a Fido store or fido.ca for details.
Now, the 680 News gas price update. Empro predicts the price will not
Two
change.
Toronto gang
It's
members
holding at
kidnapped, forced to play Russian roulette.
$1.27 a liter at most GTA stations. In 60 seconds, we'll check traffic and weather together. 680 News time, 10:40.
At Sleep Country, we wish your old mattress well, but after thousands of sleeps, bedtime stories, and peaceful mornings, it's time for your mattress to officially retire. It's done so much for you, but your body...
Two Toronto gang members kidnapped, forced to play Russian roulette. April 28th, 2016. 680 News. Yeah, no, the only reason I'm going any further with this, the photo of the two suspects. Now, I didn't notice this in 2016. They've both got hypopigmentation on their face. That makes them sick self. I didn't realize that. It's weird that you can relate to certain things without realizing you're directly related. It's fucked up. I'm learning nothing from any of these fucking people.
But sometimes people don't know, and it shows up later and it's too late.
You know what? I heard that it can lay dormant in your body for years.
HIV?
Absolutely can. Everyone reacts.
That's kind of scary, right?
It is.
You're going around and you think you're fine and you're having unprotected sex and maybe you have HIV and it hasn't surfaced yet. Like,
syphilis.
Is it transferable then?
There's a huge thing of syphilis in this city, apparently.
Even if it's not, like, if you're not showing symptoms or things like that, you still can give it to someone else.
I don't know
which is different. And sometimes it takes years for you to even show symptoms. So it's really such a tricky, disease when you're not on medication. But what is something that is good is that there is like a newer medication that came out that's called Trippz. And basically, if you're like on your kind of sexual discovery journey and you feel that maybe you're going to be having like sex with like, more than just a partner, it is a medication that you can kind of take that protects you against getting HIV. That is out there now, which is kind of cool. So I think a lot of people, they are choosing to go on this like medication just to like protect themselves.
So you were talking about HIV laying dormant in your body. That's useful for me to know.
That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's also really powerful to know your status.
Yeah.
If you are having multiple partners, it is important to get tested.
Mm-hmm. But it's so hard because I think a lot of people don't feel empowered to go get tested and to know their status because, I think for all of us, I'm sure we can relate. Like, when we were in school learning about sexual health, it was taught through a lens of shame and so like, abstinence and like religion. And, so it was, it's created a lot of this internalized shame within us to just even like feel empowered to take care of our sexual health. And then we may have also had experiences with our own personal like family doctor that, might have made comments or made us feel uncomfortable when we do want to like try to take charge of our own sexual health because I feel, sexual health should be a part of self-love. And like the way that we take care of ourselves, the same way as we work out, and the same way as we, maybe want to take care of our mental health.
Coming up next on 680 News, we will have a rundown of your top stories, followed by sports.
What's with the music
time, 10:44.
This is Caleb. Hi there. Caleb loves speaking in the third person.
Caleb sure does.
I thought they were talking about syphilis because there's a huge fucking thing of syphilis in this city. By the time you get symptoms, your brain's rotted out. I'm looking at Darwin and the genetic theories. There's Congolese people that are HIV immune, essentially. It doesn't make them sick. Yeah, well, I got sickle cell from somewhere, didn't I?
Instruction on it. Yeah, redone the ladder in the back so you can get up and down. It's just not a straight up and down ladder now.
Do the kids play on it a lot?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful place you have here. There's plenty of space. How are they doing coming home from Syria?
I'll give you a story. 4th of July.
Rick tells me he just put the children to bed when the neighbors started letting off fireworks to celebrate.
The fuck is that's this guy being a fucking typical white Anglophone
male. They were fast asleep.
Why
but he says the oldest was wide awake.
Moron.
She thought they were being bombed.
Yeah,
she had her head covered up in bed, crying.
Wow.
And I brought her out here. She sat out here quite a while watching. She got used to it. She thought they were really neat when they work.
Yeah, you should have let her see them while she was awake, dumbass.
Distance rifles. And she said, now them are not fireworks, them are guns. She knew the difference right away.
And how old is she?
She was 6.
6 years old. She knows what gunshots sound like compared to fireworks.
And I thought that was very sad.
This British guy now says,
there's still so many kids stuck in Syria who were taken there by their families and who were born there. And I guess what's incredibly rare and lucky about these kids is they are going to get a second chance.
And try to have a halfway normal life.
That's not going to happen.
From winter to Toyota recommended all-season tires, you'll extend the life of your winter tires and enjoy a quieter ride on your all-season tires, which are designed for warmer temperatures. Contact your nearest Ontario Toyota dealer today and get the right tires at the right price.
You get the wiring on your side airbags on your Venza checked because they could be damaged from normal use and they won't deploy when you need them. That's why they're running all these Toyota ads. They're trying to get everybody that owns one into the shop and then talk about it. All season tires. It snowed last week, and I saw one of these headlines from, I guess yesterday, whatever. It was supposed to be snow covered either today or yesterday all over southern Ontario. That's what one of these news headlines was. I didn't see it till after the fact, and it didn't happen because they're not always correct. They're just gambling. It snowed twice. Let's do it a third. Let's just tell them it's going to happen. That's what they're doing, man.
Brad Gushue falls to Scotland's Bruce Muad in the Players' Championship, losing at 6-5. And Canadian Bianca Andreescu has withdrawn from the Mutua Madrid Open after testing positive for COVID-19. Sports at 15 and 45 past every hour or anytime at sportsnet.ca/5.
FH Health is a private medical clinic offering testing for COVID-19. If you need clearance for essential travel or are concerned or responsible for workplace safety, FH Health offers same-day PCR.
All I keep thinking is bed bugs bite me and die within seconds. And supposedly we have a higher immunity to malaria. It's useful. I get bit by mosquitoes. I don't know if that applies to West Nile. That's a virus. I guess that might not apply, but I know, same vector. This doesn't mean anything in practice, I don't think. Ah, shit, some people. UNTV.
A fungus growing on plant roots in the soil. We know even less about this than about bees, despite the fact that these fungi can be considered to be the internet of soil. Without them, the nutrition absorption capacity of plants declines and soil quality decreases. And we are witnessing the silent extinction of root fungi in the soil in most regions of the world, and there are many other examples. We should finally acknowledge that we do not have the right to destroy sensitively balanced natural systems which have developed over several millions of years. We have no right to destroy the life chances of our children and grandchildren. It is our moral imperative to change. Many have been warning for a long time about the decline of biological
dates. It's higher in fiber and antioxidants. It has a lower sugar content than white sugar, the result being less sweet. Both sugars are lower on the glycemic index, which benefits
but you'll just use more.
Blood sugar levels.
Completely ignoring the fact that you will sweeten the taste and use more. Yes, you will.
Coming up in 60 seconds, we'll have traffic and your extended forecast. 680 News Time, 10:50.
Be the first to know. Breaking news as soon as it happens. 680 News.
A new partner. Yeah, I mean, there's no question. I know.
It's good though.
But I guess if they creep your Instagram, they know. Because that's how I found out.
And that's something that, it's been a new advancement, I think, in my dating journey with HIV. Because, I think I was very afraid to start dating again. I've been single now for like 3 years, over 3 years now. And it's one of those things where I was so afraid to tell anyone that I was on a date with, but like legally.
There is less prejudice against a white guy with HIV dating than a black person with sickle cell.
Be overwhelmed with every single time that I started, like maybe getting like a couple dates in with someone, and I thought it might lead to something sexual. But I think through like a very like traumatic experience where I was on like a couple of dates with someone and I disclosed my status to them, and they actually got like physically violent with me, and it was just because they just didn't know anything about HIV, and like they thought that I had like given it to them because I kissed them, and that I just, after I kind of like removed that person from my home, I just was like, I think I need to be like super upfront.
You don't know which one was bigger
going forward to protect myself.
After I removed that person from my
home, the dating apps that I do use, and like on my Instagram, I now like publicly disclose my status. And I think it's also easier for my own like mental health too, because if someone's not interested in dating someone with HIV, then they're just going to swipe left, versus like get engaged in the conversation.
Did you actually put that on your profile?
Yeah, I literally write it. I write it on my dating profile now because it's just like I just feel it's safer for me. I know, and it's just like I just want other people to see it and like not feel ashamed. You know, it's one of these things that I'm really trying to like fight the urge of allowing shame to have power over me. You know, and it's like by me like questioning whether
Magic Johnson, yeah. So the way things are right now, if you use a condom, you are not legally liable for anything if you have HIV and have sex with somebody.
HIV positive. Like, there's probably a lot of people out there that are too afraid to add it. So I mean, that's a great, a great way to lend your support to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you had that terrible experience when someone got physical with you like that. That's terrible.
It was very scary.
But I think there are a lot of people, though, Miles, that still don't realize that dating with the virus is a lot safer than it used to be.
No,
I think
I have no idea.
But you might be missing out on some people that once they get to know you and learn that they would, be willing to date you.
It's true. It's like a constant conflict that I have, I think, within myself in that regard.
Yeah. Because, it is possible to have a healthy, complete romantic relationship with HIV.
You said something earlier about legally you have to tell them. So who is it your family doctor that tells you, like, okay, here's legally what you have to do going forward? Or, like, how does that process work? Is it a social worker that steps in?
You actually can get sued, Joan, if you don't know someone and they contract it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it was my HIV specialist that I first saw when I was diagnosed. They kind of like walked me through, and they said that like, what if I am going to be sexually active, then I do need to legally disclose my status.
No, your doctor's not a lawyer. He just gave you legal advice.
Like gray area now because of the medication, though, because like
not the medication,
so with my undetectable status, like. A lot of people feel that if they are undetectable, they don't need to disclose it, but there's still this like huge gray area in the legal department that it's like, is that proper? Is it not? I think that there needs to be like a new kind of updated system in that way.
Now, have you ever been on an HIV positive site, a dating site, and perhaps finding someone who also...
So in Canada, what he just said is not true. Unless so it used to be, you get charged with attempted murder or some shit. They can't do that. Case law doesn't say they can do that. Well, I don't know where he is. This is supposedly all taking place in Toronto.
We acknowledge the continued disruption to the lives of the physiotherapy candidates affected. We plan to reschedule all registered candidates into smaller, more frequent virtual or in-person sessions, which will take place starting in the late summer or early autumn. For City News, I'm Aliha Sheikh. Your business report is next. McDonald's Egg McMuffin is made with a freshly cooked egg. But wait, there's also a bacon and egg McMuffin. And
is that why there's chunks of eggshell in there?
Right now, they're just $3 each. Good luck deciding. Plus tax for limited time at participating restaurants. Excludes delivery.
What's that noise?
Oh, that's a hurt.
So I knew two people a long time ago. I used to sell weed to. I guess it would be 2006, let's say. Mikey and Ian, and you don't have privacy rights in Canada once you're dead. So, Ian was an older white guy. Mikey was a younger black guy. They were both HIV positive, but they didn't get it from each other. Mikey's mom came to us and told us, I'm telling you in a different order than it happened, told us that his very first boyfriend gave him HIV. So if I remember correctly, he would have been born somewhere at the beginning of the 80s, most likely. A couple years older than me, I'm pretty sure. Ian, as I said, was older. I don't know how long each of them had the virus or anything. I have a rough idea from what Mikey's mom told us. Ian's HIV progressed and he died because that's what happens. That's what happens. Or the HIV leads to AIDS. The AIDS progress, and then you get like a common cold, for example, and it kills you. Mikey got all messed up and stepped in front of a fucking train. And for about 6 months after that, at least, every time a train went down that section of track, they were honking, they pulled the horn. Because that traumatizes the operator of the train as well. Those are people he used to sell weed to.
Reopens for air travel likely later this year. Kokona sees
and that's
some
why I
airports
can't
bouncing
listen
back
to all
quickly.
that for too long.
Others in the mid-tier may struggle.
With the government forcing the likes of Air Canada and eventually WestJet to reinstate regional routes, they'll start to recover. The big hubs, that's a concern. With these airlines are going to be focusing in Canada on our biggest hubs, so again, Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, and Montreal. My big concern is Canada's 4 or 5 mid-sized airports. They're not going to get attention from these carriers. They're not going to be compelled, for example, by the Canadian government to serve Edmonton or Winnipeg or Ottawa or Halifax. And those airports are regional economic drivers, sources for foreign direct investment.
That's Robert Kokona, president of AirTrav. And at the Business Center, I'm Mike Ethel.
Some see challenges, we see opportunities. Some see doubt, we see hope.
If I clean my pipe and get higher than I got up that joint, I will be emboldened by my previous.
Be safe, active, and connected to experience a premium.
I got lots of stories like that. They're shitty stories. I got lots of people. Those are people that didn't get murdered. One died of a virus, and the other one died, committed suicide because the first one died. Nobody murdered them. I got like 15 different people at least. I lost count. You lose count. That's for real. That have been killed, murdered. Or close enough to murder. I blame people, but in the law.
And until next week, goodbye. You're listening to the BBC World Service.
Bye. He said bye.
Them tomorrow, and their effects will be assessed by future generations. Therefore, let us implement them together with passion, knowledge, and diligence, guided by the common good and the desire to change for the better. Thank you for your attention.
Republic of Poland for the statement just made. I now invite the President of the Republic of Colombia to deliver a pre-recorded statement.
El planeta.
The planet is in a state of emergency. The loss of biodiversity is accepted.
Junk, or visit us at 1-800-GotJunk.com.
Long-term disability denied? Discover what you're...
Oddly, that's not the problem I face. Excuse me, that's CRI.
Tell me how to ask it first.
Okay, you can say 什么时候播出?
Toronto, a Chorus Entertainment Company. You're listening to Global News Radio 640 Toronto. This is Global News at 11 o'clock.
From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jerry Smith. Chloe Zhao has made history at a socially distanced Oscar ceremony that was retooled for the pandemic.
This was a Beijing-born director or something, then it makes sense. The CRI talks all day about it. All these other people are just
Now the news. I'm Shane Bickett. Several business and investment organizations are working together to push for the early implementation of the world's largest trade deal. They've launched an initiative after holding a meeting in Qingdao. 15 countries, including China, are part of the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. Chen Yaozhong with the Malaysia-China Business Council says RCEP will help speed up the global economic recovery in the post-pandemic era.
RCEP will strengthen the synchronization of supply chains among member states and repair supply chains disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. This will boost the confidence of member states in economic growth, enhance the level of cooperation and integration in East Asia, and realize the ultimate goal of jointly promoting recovery, sharing opportunities, and common development.
All members of RCEP are planning to ratify the agreement before the end of this year and push for it to become effective next year. RCEP is the world's largest free trade zone. Its 15 member states are home to over 2 billion people with a combined GDP of 26 trillion US dollars. The fourth Digital China Summit kicked off yesterday in Fuzhou, Fujian province, exhibiting breakthroughs and innovations in the sector. The two-day event has attracted participation from more than 200 companies. The summit consists of 7 sections, including a main forum, an exhibition, sub-forums, and an innovation contest. It'll focus on the digital transformation of several sectors, including governance, the economy, ecology, IT, urban construction, and rural revitalization. Chinese authorities said the country will kick off a month-long campaign in May as an effort to bolster consumer spending. The National Consumption Promotion Month will feature a series of activities promoting spending. It's the 10th anniversary of the event. Zhu Xiaoliang is with the Ministry of Commerce, and he says more than 260 e-commerce enterprises will take part in an online shopping festival.
According to the latest statistics, many international brands from Switzerland, France, Japan, the United States, and the United Kingdom will hold more than 70 activities and release hundreds of new products, covering dozens of categories such as clothes and bags, beauty products, food and beverage, jewelry, and diamonds.
It says a number of pro-consumption measures, including coupons and subsidies, will be rolled out next month. Jordan's received a batch of Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine donated by the Chinese government as part of the anti-pandemic cooperation between the two countries. Chinese Ambassador Chen Xuandong says China firmly supports Jordan in fighting the pandemic and restoring the economy. In early April, Jordan received the first batch of Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine purchased from China. Jordan commenced a nationwide COVID-19 vaccination campaign on January the 13th with a priority for vulnerable groups and frontline health workers. The second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic in India is projected to reach its peak in the middle of May. Local media reports say that Prime Minister Narendra Modi discussed the latest projections at a meeting with the chief ministers of hard-hit states. New daily cases in India are projected to rise up to 500,000 before subsiding between June and July. Health infrastructure is said to be inadequate to cope with the current situation.
It doesn't make sense. Everybody keeps making that same prediction.
As of Sunday, India's COVID-19 cases are nearing 17 million, with more than 349,000 deaths. The country has recorded over 300,000 new cases a day for the past 4 days. France has tightened up COVID-19 control measures in an effort to contain highly infectious variants. Prime Minister Jean Castex announced that the country is reinforcing border controls, ramping up testing, and ordering a mandatory 10-day quarantine for travelers. The new measures mainly affect travelers from high-risk countries such as Argentina, Chile, India, and South Africa. Castex says the strains that were first detected in Brazil and South Africa were behind a few new cases, and that it's important to keep these cases low. In European football, Manchester City won the English League Cup for the 4th straight year with a 1-0 victory over Tottenham. With their first trophy this season, City's on course to winning a treble this year. The teams are runaway leader in the Premier League and has reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League. The League Cup final was played in front of 8,000 supporters. It was the most attended sporting event in the
Victim in Midtown shooting had criminal past, police sources. Where are we? June 8th, 2016. It was Wednesday. Sukhvir Deol is shown at a Toronto Raptors playoff game last month. Deol was eventually ordered to leave after heckling a referee. Let's see, all black, everything. And then I'm not 100% sure who that is one of the players. A man who was gunned down as he sat in an SUV in Midtown Toronto Tuesday afternoon did have a criminal past, police sources have told CTV News. CP24, but whatever. Police sources have told CTV News Sukhveer Deol was fatally shot while sitting in the driver's seat of a vehicle behind a building on Yonge Street, south of Eglinton Avenue, shortly before 3 p.m. According to police sources, Deol moved to Toronto from Vancouver in 2013 with the intention of starting up a trucking company. Excuse me. Police sources say that Deol was known to officers in British Columbia, where he was allegedly involved in the cocaine trade and had ties to the Independent Soldiers street gang. According to public records, it would be public record, wouldn't it? Anyway, Deol was previously found guilty of 5 different offenses in BC. And it should say public record. There shouldn't be an S. But anyway, the convictions pertain to several vehicle-related offenses, as well as a 2002 charge for assault and a 2011 charge for resisting or obstructing a peace officer. It is not known whether Deol was involved in any criminal activities in Toronto. Well, we'll get to that. Last month, Deol was ejected from a Toronto Raptors playoff game after heckling a referee from his seat. Police have released few details about Deol's shooting at this point. On Tuesday, however, police did say that they were searching for 2 black males who were seen fleeing the area in a black vehicle. One male was last seen wearing a green construction vest, the other an orange construction vest. The suspects have been described as armed and dangerous. So there's a video out there somewhere, 1 minute after the shooting, from I guess a balcony or some shit, right above this. It used to be an alleyway. When I used to hang out up there, was an alleyway. They built some condo buildings up there. So there's an SUV, and all the doors are locked and shit, as you would. And the police pull up, and they're trying to open the doors of the truck, and when they get it open, I forget if they smashed it, I forget. That's not the important detail. When they get it open, they're pulling bricks out of the guy's cargo area. They're pulling bricks of coke out of the cargo area. Don't make any effort at all to open the front door or help him in any which way whatsoever. I've seen the video. I don't need to see it, I got seen it. The cops went for the dope in the back of his SUV, like some Escalade type thing, whatever. That's so I don't know which cops necessarily that showed up, but a block from there, 2 blocks from a block from there is 53 Division.
Because we looked at them in the lab.
So familiar to a different song.
I'm a strong responder, and she's not so much. So that's just differences in our biology.
Does it have anything to do with blood type?
I think there's still a little bit unknown about that, right? And that goes back for, I think it's got to be about 6 months now, where people were looking across blood types. And I don't think we certainly haven't seen any sort of nail in the coffin yet to say exactly whether or not there's a direct linkage there.
Because there has been some talk about it as it relates to contracting COVID-19, that people with type O blood are less likely to contract it versus somebody with type A blood, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of the confounding things about COVID, right? So when we look back now, certainly even the data way back in January 2020 or 2020, when people can remember back that far, we had this impression certainly that it was something that did just infect and cause disease, and certainly in older individuals and those in high-risk groups. And listen, I think the tables have kind of turned on that, right? We're seeing those differences coming up as the virus is spread out, across the globe, and that's going to continue to come up. We will find more differences as we continue to look.
Of course we will. And, I want to get ahead of this story a little bit. Looking to the U.S., who has gone great guns with vaccines. Many states are at a place.
This is about 2016. Just SIU called in following crash in Etobicoke. Elderly woman struck at Mississauga gas, station. Some of these are clipped off the man charged after shots fired from, I don't know, somewhere. Mom pleads for witnesses in sons that would have been murdered. Shooting victim at criminal ties. Just read that one, please. Oh, John Tory was. Oh, I forgot he was running for me. Pan Am Games went $342 million over, but they don't talk about that. Today's question: do you think a gun amnesty program will help curb gun violence in Toronto? Yes, no, view result. Related article: gun amnesty program on the agenda at City Council meeting. Top stories, most popular top stories: female Mississauga teacher facing sex charges involving student. SIU investigating following multi-vehicle crash in Etobicoke. I think it's victim in Midtown shooting a criminal past. I'm repeating something. Mother pleads for witnesses to come forward after 17-year-old shot dead in East York. That's 54 Division. Elderly woman in hospital after being struck at Mississauga gas station. Petting zoo under investigation says its kangaroo is healthy. I don't even remember that one. Pakistani mother burns daughter alive for marrying without permission. That may or may not be a local story. I'm not sure. Victim in Midtown. It's repeating some of them. Okay, I didn't realize it was repeating some of them. This is the type of shit that goes down in Toronto. They don't talk about after the fact.
Of true herd immunity, but our vaccination will keep transmission at a minimum, and certainly, as we identify pockets of infections, we should be able to control those. But all of this relies on getting that blanket protection in the community, so you have a bubble around those cases as they show up for things like measles.
Crime maps, major crime indicators.
Where there's hesitancy or low vaccine coverage, but we don't see broad transmission because we have a good surrounding bubble of vaccinees. That's, I think, what we're trying to aim for. But remember, we're living on a moment-to-moment basis with this virus.
You know, it makes no sense to me, and with all due respect to people who don't want to wear a mask and don't want to be vaccinated, that they're doing it in a way because they want to keep their businesses open. You know, it's tied to the economy or their economy. Yet the only way to really open up the economy is to vaccinate people and wear masks in the meantime while we're doing so.
Well, I agree, and I think if we want to look at two stellar examples where vaccination and broad vaccination communities have turned the tide around in regards to transmission. Look at Israel, look at the UK. When we look at the tie-in between restrictions and as well broad vaccination programs, I don't think there are any clear examples that we could have right now.
Absolutely. And we just need to have a little patience. I saw that the EU was going to open up travel to Americans who had both vaccinations, dose 1 and dose 2. And so that to me is hopeful, and I can be optimistic. I'd like you to hang on the line. We're going to go to break. And when I come back, I want to talk just about that, about hope at a time where people are totally frustrated. I am
frustrated.
It's been a good night for women, I think, particularly because we had Chloe Zhao winning for Best Director, but also in original screenplay, Emerald Fennell, a British filmmaker, she won in that category, and that's normally thought of as a male preserve, so definitely progress.
And just briefly, all of this, of course, taking place with the backdrop of COVID-19, with the Oscars ceremony taking place at two venues, the train station in downtown Los Angeles and the Dolby Theatre. Just very quickly, breaking news, Anthony Hopkins has won the award for Best Actor for his role in the film The Father.
Peter, thank you.
No one expected that.
You got them both, the Best Picture and the Best Actor. We appreciate it. Tom Brooke and Peter Bowes on the red carpet in Los Angeles. The devastation caused by the eruption of the La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent earlier this month has been enormous. Agriculture on the island has been devastated, crops ruined and livelihoods lost. The Director General of the Organisation of Eastern Caribbean States, Dr. Didacus Jules, has told the BBC that while the island's neighbours have greatly helped, more developed countries haven't appreciated the scale of the havoc caused. A number of subsequent eruptions have again closed the airport in recent days, further complicating relief efforts. From St. Vincent, our Latin America correspondent Will Grant reports.
Dr. Didacus Jules said he was proud of the solidarity shown by countries across the Caribbean towards St. Vincent in the wake of the volcanic eruptions on the island, which have engulfed entire communities in ash and destroyed crops. The regional response to the island's water shortage had been particularly rapid, he said, and the Organisation of Eastern Caribbean States had had to pivot its support to the government of St. Vincent to provide the most comfortable housing to the affected families. However, the Director General of the OECS also compared the catastrophe to Hurricane Maria in late 2017, when at least 15 people died on the island of Dominica. The wider world just didn't have an appreciation of the scale of natural disasters on smaller islands, said Dr. Jules.
I don't think they do because, in a way, small is insignificant. There's no difference. The world of the ant and the world of the elephant is the same. Everything in proportion. So, 15 people dying in a small island state may not look like much, but it makes a huge difference in our societies.
By the government's own estimate, the eruptions may have wiped out as much as 50% of St. Vincent's GDP. The situation is also far from over, with eruptions expected to continue intermittently for up to a year. However, Dr. Jules also argued that there was an opportunity in the smaller size of the countries involved. Longer-term reconstruction plans could be manageable, cost-effective, and implemented with due consideration to climate change. In that sense, the close-knit communities of St. Vincent could be a demonstration to the rest of the world, he said.
Will Grant. Restaurants and bars in large parts of Italy are reopening on Monday in the latest relaxation of COVID restrictions. The Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, brought forward the easing of some measures despite thousands of new infections still being recorded every day. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beek reports on the situation in Italy and neighbouring countries.
In the country that was the first to declare a national lockdown last year, today's relaxing of some rules is widely welcomed. The vast majority of the Italian population will be able to return to local restaurants for outdoor lunch and dinner, but the terraces and piazzas won't be bustling with tourists, as arrivals to the country still need to quarantine. A nationwide overnight curfew also remains in place. In France, nursery and primary school pupils are going back to lessons after 3 weeks away, with secondary-age students returning next week. Belgians will no longer have to make an appointment to visit non-essential shops, but will have to wait at least another 2 weeks to be served outdoor food and drink. The loosening of restrictions reflect a dip in new COVID cases across the EU, and what's hoped will be the beginning of the end of a third wave of infections. After a stuttering start, the speed of vaccinations has increased in recent weeks, with more jabs being produced and distributed across the continent. The European Commission says its vaccine programme is now on course to inoculate 70% of the EU's adult population by the middle of July.
Nick Beek in Rome. There's been intense fighting between different sections of the security forces in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. Some soldiers support the opposition, while others back President Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo, whose mandate was recently extended by 2 years, despite his term expiring in February. Our Africa editor Mary Harper reports.
What started as localized clashes has spread to other parts of Mogadishu, including central areas where heavy weapons have been used. There are reports of mortar fire near the presidential palace. The former president, Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud, and a senior opposition leader say their homes have been attacked. Some former warlords and clan leaders are involved in the clashes. The international community has criticized the extension of Mr. Farmajo's term and warned the country could slip back into civil war. The United Nations says Somalia already has more than enough to deal with, including Islamist militancy, a locust invasion, drought, floods, and a surge of coronavirus.
The Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has announced his resignation ahead of elections in June. The announcement was made the day after President Biden became the first US leader to recognize as genocide the massacre of Armenians during World War I. But it's the fallout from a more recent conflict, last year's war with Azerbaijan, that's forced Mr. Pashinyan to call early elections. Rehan Dmitry reports on the continued aftermath of that conflict.
40-year-old Ruben Simonian is enjoying his freedom gardening at his friend's house on the outskirts of the Armenian capital Yerevan. A volunteer recruit in last year's war over Nagorno-Karabakh, he spent weeks hiding in a bunker before being captured by Azeri forces.
When we emerged from the bunker, they loaded their weapons, lined us up. They asked us to say Karabakh is Azerbaijan. Those who agreed would continue the journey. Those who refused were threatened with being shot on the spot.
This is the sound of Ruben and 4 other Armenians being interviewed by Azerbaijani television in breach of the Geneva Convention for Prisoners of War. Some of the men have visible bruises on their faces. Ruben says while in detention they were badly beaten, but eventually, after 55 days in captivity, Ruben was released. The 2020 war over Nagorno-Karabakh claimed more than 7,000 lives. Azerbaijan regained swathes of its territory. A Russian brokered truce ended the fighting. The return of all prisoners of war was part of the deal. But despite several prisoner swaps, Armenia claims that nearly 200 of its citizens are still being held by Azerbaijan. This woman's husband is one of them. Fearing for his safety, she didn't want to reveal her identity. Azerbaijan says it has returned all POWs. In February, the country's president Ilham Aliyev admitted some Armenians were still being held, but he said there were saboteurs caught after the ceasefire and therefore not prisoners of war. But Armenian lawyer Siranush Sakhakyan says she has appealed to the European Court of Human Rights over 130 documented cases.
Failure to acknowledge does not necessarily mean that they are not in Azerbaijan or we do not have unrebuttable evidence on their captivity and being alive at this moment. It simply means reluctance of Azerbaijan to officially accept them as POWs.
The unresolved issue over Armenian military and civilian captives has become a rallying cry for the country's opposition. They want to hold the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan accountable for failing to secure their release, while desperate relatives want to know why their loved ones still have not come home.
Rayhan, Dimitri, Tom has some other stories from our news desk. Israeli police have allowed Palestinians to gather on the steps at the entrance to Jerusalem's Old City, easing tensions that had resulted in 3 nights of clashes. Following a rally by hundreds of Palestinians at the Damascus Gate, police removed barricades blocking access to the promenade and announced the area was now open to all. China says it will launch its next robot lunar lander in 3 years' time and will carry testing equipment for France, Sweden, Russia and Italy. According to the programme's chief designer, the Chang'e 6 craft will land near the lunar South Pole and collect samples for return to Earth. Future plans include a robot rover on Mars and a crewed orbital station. And Turkmenistan has celebrated a new holiday dedicated to its national dog, the Alibi. The large shepherd breed is a favourite of the country's president, who wrote a 227-page book on the dogs in 2017. The same year, he gave an Alibi puppy to his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin. Tom, thank you. Time for some sports news now. Here's Andy Barwell.
Thank you. Well, Manchester City continued their domination of the English.
But I think we need to have that data to ensure that people are actually getting a good option here for vaccines without us finding out after the fact that in fact this was not a great strategy.
Dr. Kindrachuk, I could talk to you all night about this subject. There's so many. Thank you so much once again. I hope you'll be back next week. In the meantime, get better.
Always a pleasure, Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, coming up next, are you an askable adult? If you don't know what that is, you got to stay tuned. I'm Maureen McGrath. This is The Sun.
As Pep Guardiola and his team can also wrap up the Premier League title.
I got another for anybody tonight.
Similar project with the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Bahrain, and with our countries in the Middle East.
Dear friends, nature and the environment knows no border. They cannot really understand borders. Just as we must work together to defeat the coronavirus, we must work together to save nature. We must overcome the divisions of the past so that we can build a better future for our region, for the planet, and for all of our children. And I would like once again to thank you very much for taking part in this convention. And I would like to bless you with the traditional blessing of the Jews at the beginning of the Jewish year.
Rafa Nadal really is the king of...
You're way too beautiful, girl. That's why it'll never work. You have me suicidal.
यानी कि सपनों का सौदागर की शूटिंग चल रही
CRI News Plus.
Started at the park, used to chill after dark. Ooh, when you took my heart, that's when we fell apart. Cause we both thought that love lasts forever. Lasts forever. They say we too young to get ourselves sprung. Oh, we didn't care. We made it very clear. And they also said that we couldn't last together. Last together. See, it's very defined. You're one of a kind, but you mash up my mind. You have to get declined. Oh, Lord. My baby is driving me crazy. You're way too beautiful, girl. That's why you never work. You have me suicidal.
Hey, what happened to Chomo? I'm bored now. He fucking harassed the fuck out of us all day, every chance he get, in person and on the fucking internet. What happened to him? Is he dead? I sure hope so.
It was back in 99, watching movies all the time. Oh, and I went away for doing my first crime. And I never thought that we was gonna see each other. See each other. And then I came out, mommy moved me down south. Oh, I ain't with my girl who I thought was my world. It came out to see that she wasn't the girl for me. Girl for me. See, it's very defined, yeah.
I missed the point. I'm not being harassed. I'm sitting here upset that I'm bored. I missed the fucking point.
You're way too beautiful, girl. That's why you never work. You have me suicidal. Suicidal. You say it's over. Damn, I'm beautiful, girl. They only want to do me dirt. They'll have you suicidal. Suicidal. When they say it's over. Now I'm up on sinning, now I'm fighting. Please tell me why I'm feeling slightly, and I don't know how to make it better. Make it better. You're dating other guys, you're telling me like, oh, I can't believe what I'm seeing with my eyes. I'm losing my mind, and I don't think it's clever. Think it's clever. You're way too beautiful, girl. That's why you never work. You have me suicidal, suicidal, suicidal.
That's Sean Kingston with the song Beautiful Girl. You're listening to Studio Plus. Now let's go to another topic.
That's why I waited till the end. I couldn't remember who the fuck did that.
Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Natchez, Mississippi have offered the remote workers cash to relocate there, while exotic destinations like Aruba have promoted their islands for stay-at-home jobs. And this story is particularly about the situation in the United States. Now, the state of West Virginia wants to pay the remote workers $12,000 to move to its country roads. So most recently, the Governor Jim Justice announced a program sent the West Virginia that will allow adventurers to enjoy world-class recreation and crowded spaces and a low cost of living while staying fully connected to their jobs. West Virginia's new program comes as many major companies, including Uber and Microsoft, bring their employees back to the office or have at least started thinking about it as COVID-19 vaccinations ramp up. But that doesn't mean it's too late for the mountain states offer. Some companies, including Twitter and Slack, are letting at least some employees work remotely permanently. So the $12,000 West Virginia is offering is paid over 2 years with 10.
How many other things did The Simpsons predict?
In the Niagara region and also here for the city of Toronto. Tomorrow, 11 degrees, mostly sunny, should be a really nice day, and it will not be as windy across the GTA. Tonight's overnight low, -1.
Right now in downtown Toronto, it's partly cloudy and 2 degrees, feeling like -3. Similar conditions near Toronto Pearson at 2 degrees, feeling like -4. 680 news time, 11:33.
The 93rd Annual Academy Awards have come to an end, honoring the best films from 2020.
680's James Mack and his phone.
Actively listening without thinking of a response while the other person is talking. Somebody who is respectful and kind. If somebody tries to understand somebody else's values and
You must let me dictate your thoughts while my mouth is making noises, and you must stare me directly in the eyes while doing so. That's what that is. Neuro-linguistic programming without the physical touch, I guess.
Asking them once it's safe to do so, to go back to the theater.
And one day, very, very soon, take it.
Scientist, and he was an astronomer, and he took their material and he said, well, you know, I think the Russians might be onto
the
something.
spaceman?
I'm going to go ahead and put my own little twist on it. So he wrote an article in 1992 called Deep Hot Biosphere. And in 1999, he turned it into a book, and he managed to convince people that oil came from bionic sources, that there were microorganisms that lived underneath the earth, and they were the ones that were eating up the rocks and making the petroleum products. So they drilled 2 wells, and I think they were about 12,000 feet deep. They used extreme sterile measures to make sure that they could bring up biological samples from the depth, and both the wells failed. So everybody said, well, gold has proven that it doesn't work. And this is kind of, you know, like the straw man argument.
There is a bacteria that concerns the petroleum industry greatly. It eats oil. Oh, yeah, that exists. There's also a different microbe that survives the temperatures next to steam vents, lava vents, whatever, on the sea floor. There's a lot of fucking bad stuff out there. You're not going to kill everything.
Awards this season for his role as Levi Green in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and he will forever live on.
Played out time and time again. So, what would we're heading into a break here shortly. Let me ask a question, and then we'll get an answer from you on the other side. What would happen to the price of oil? I mean, it's what is it, around $60 a barrel right now or less? What would happen to the price of oil if it suddenly became understood and accepted that oil was virtually renewable? I mean, maybe that's a rhetorical question. I guess we know the answer, but we'll get some details on the other side. Joseph Olson, science writer, retired engineer, founding member of Principia Scientific International, back with more of the Conspiracy Show after this.
What's this guy's name?
Coroner announced more young people were dying at home unexpectedly with COVID-19. Stay with 680 News for the latest on this developing story.
And for the fourth day in a row, India set new world records for daily COVID-19 cases. Karen Seolin of City News has the details.
Bodies pile up in makeshift crematoriums on the streets of Delhi, where COVID-19 now kills someone every 5 minutes. Across India, another 2,600 dead in a 24-hour period. New infections are topping 300,000 each day, more than any other country by far. But experts caution even those numbers, however horrific, are an undercount. Tweeted a politician from Mumbai. Stories from the hardest-hit cities tell of the sick gasping for air and left to die while waiting in line for a vacant ICU bed or oxygen to breathe. In some hotspots, train cars are being converted into field hospital units. In his monthly radio address, the Indian Prime Minister urged people to get vaccinated, saying the second wave storm has shaken the nation. Karen Seolin.
Their trains aren't set up like you're thinking, with a big room with a bed.
Travel ban on all passenger flights from India and Pakistan. The federal government imposed the ban in an effort to prevent the variant currently ravaging India from making its way here. But Sandeep Sohal says she's just one of many Canadians now stranded in India due to the short notice.
I didn't came here for any vacation or nothing like that. I came here for funeral of my father.
We reached out to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs about the matter. A statement from a spokesperson reads in part,
no sense of irony, nothing. It's your fault then, stupid.
Canadians. Since March 2020, the Government of Canada has and continues to advise against non-essential travel outside of Canada. They also say anyone with extenuating circumstances should contact the Emergency Response Center.
You're listening to All News Radio 680 News. City officials are out with a reminder for eligible residents, don't wait to book a vaccine appointment. This comes as Toronto's death toll climbs to 3,000.
Really? Because you've been telling us for like 8 months.
Virus-related deaths being reported.
Like, no, over a year. This CERB thing too. Oh, some people should do it on this day, and some people should do it on that day.
And the sobering milestone comes more than 3 months after Toronto recorded its 2,000th death. Health experts say this could have been prevented and urge everyone to stay vigilant.
Some strong winds blew across the GTA today.
So if you want, you can take me morbid, negative, or
wind gusts this evening will be around
paranoid
50 to 60
if you want.
kilometers
So
per
far,
hour.
I've been right every
and
time.
Once we get into the overnight, as temperatures drop down below the freezing mark,
Yeah, I keep saying the same thing, actually. It's just, it's not going to go away just by itself. It's essentially what I'm saying.
For the city of Toronto, that's why a frost advisory has been issued for those areas.
The temperature will warm up by tomorrow, though, and no frost warnings are expected in the next few days. We're expecting to plunge below the freezing mark tonight, overnight, with -1, and that wind making it feel like -6. In 30 seconds, we'll check gas prices.
680 News Time, 11:39.
Hey, it's Dean Sickles from Willowdale Nissan. Great news, we are open. All safety protocols are in place as we regularly.
I'm pretty sure, because I don't buy this
for
shit.
your safety. We will all get through.
I don't buy this shit, so I'm pretty sure. I guess I have to. I'm almost certain. It says Nuts to You Nut Butter Inc. And it says almond butter. The name's in English, but the product's in French. Don't matter. These people don't. Somebody along the supply chain donates shit to the food bank, so they.
Now, the 680 News gas price update. Enpro predicts the price will not change in about 20 minutes. It will be holding at $1.27.9 a liter at most GTA stations. Coming up in 60 seconds, we'll check traffic and weather together. 680 News Time, 11:40.
Humans are the most advanced species on Earth. We've conquered fire.
You see my caveman ass trying to figure out if I can mix the almond butter and jam in one jar. We're so advanced.
With good food, you can get delicious, ready-to-cook meals and grocery items.
They didn't just come in packages. I'll try to put it in one package. Make it real simple.
Delivered free right to your home. Good food, eating evolved. Visit makegoodfood.ca.
I'm upset.
With minimum purchase. Details on makegoodfood.ca.
When you donate your unwanted vehicle to Kidney Car, all proceeds stay in Canada. That means your spring cleaning could be helping people across the country, funding kidney programs and services right here at home. Contact Kidney Car today and arrange your free no-contact.
I didn't even think about the money staying in Canada until he said that. Now I'm thinking all these different ways it won't.
Kidney Car.
When it was okay to breastfeed and when it wasn't. So our
from the 3 months, it's, the child is super attached to you. But I always liken the sort of the example, my own example of breastfeeding. So I set very clear boundaries of when it was okay to breastfeed and when it wasn't. So our education of our consent started then. It is not okay to breastfeed at this time. I'm done. I don't feel that this should continue. So I want you to stop breastfeeding. And, for me, it was just like, all of a sudden, for anybody who breastfeeds probably can, or has breastfed, maybe can relate to this a little bit, where breastfeeding can sometimes feel, feelings come up. Sometimes there's traumatic feelings, or sometimes there's just some different
inadequacy,
or whatever reason. Yeah, inadequacy.
Do you want to know why?
If you're in a,
because the virus don't give a fuck what's going through your brain, as long as that next baby gets what it needs to live.
It feels different. So just like consent, it feels okay and not okay to engage in certain activities. It feels the same with breastfeeding. And so I always say that consent starts with the parent, with things that feel okay on their bodies and things that don't. And be very honest and clear. And it's okay to not be okay with a child to not breastfeed. That's okay. That's your boundary. And that's how I taught it. So now that my child's 4, and I teach this with all the preschoolers, is, at this age, it's really about boundaries. And when somebody says, I don't, stop, it's, with tickling, with young kids, it's about tickling and maybe hitting or, sort of those common, they're more reactive at this age. They don't really mean to do things. Things could be for accidents.
Right. However, we also have a huge sexual abuse problem in the world that's, covert. But that still exists. And I think this question is around, how young should we say to kids, listen, consent is about saying yes, but, you need to know what is appropriate, and this is inappropriate if somebody wants to touch you. Do we start that?
Here's the problem. Every single one of you white people does the same damn thing. When you tell your kid what to do, if for any reason at all they question whatever, they don't want to do it, whatever, which is perfectly normal for any neurological computer to argue with what's being told to do. You scream and yell, because I'm bigger than you, because I said so, because I'm an adult. The pedophiles love the fact that you're pre-grooming your children for them.
You can touch your own body as much as you want. These are the places you can touch your body. And, of course, when you're 2, you just kind of have to, this is, I see that you're touching your own body. That must feel good. These are places you can touch your own body. And that becomes more of a
way too much
normal behavior around 4 or 5. As young as infancy, all the way to 4 or 5. Self-touch becomes kind of it feels like an issue for parents. So self-touch is okay anywhere, except these are the places you can't. And always outside the home.
I have a serious problem with this one. I'm going to tell you something.
When it comes to other people touching you, I always say that it's okay. It's never okay for somebody to touch you in your private parts or anywhere that doesn't feel good and that feels uncomfortable.
Oh, why is anybody touching your kid without asking them first? Why is the presumption always kids must allow adults to touch them, and black people too? Apparently, indigenous people. I get this all the time. I've been assaulted about 24 times, a dozen times. I'm on 6 counts of being assaulted by white people right now because of this fucking mentality. By the way, sickle cell. I don't talk about this much. It's not much of a problem lately. There's a thing called priapisms. I can't say the word. It's a sickle cell crisis in your dick, and it hurts. I can only imagine women might get a similar thing. And also, since I'm black, you trying to put white clothes on me means you don't leave enough room for my dick to hang. Yeah, I remember getting swatted on the hand over and over because my dick hurt. Yeah, thanks, white people. I was moving it from one side to the other or whatever so it wouldn't fucking hurt. Do I get a doctor, blood test, in it? No. I get hit and told, don't do that. Your dick is supposed to hurt when you wear the clothes we tell you to wear because we're white. You'll notice mostly they talk about pants sagging off your ass. Blah, 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 blah. That's not us. Baggy jeans, not sagging. Baggy for a reason. We can't wear skinny jeans.
Thank you so much, Mary. Really appreciate you coming on. And good luck with the workshops.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Have a good evening.
You too. It's great work. All right, coming up next, another question that I get all the time in my office by phone. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
People are patting themselves on the back for being such good parents.
Come back, we'll talk about it. I'm Maureen McGrath. You're listening to the Sunday Night Health Show on the Chorus Radio Network.
This is some horrible music in China. So what's up with this shit here?
Just been looking for one particular color and going, that color code means that it causes outbreaks.
Yes, that's right. And I guess to some extent it's been convenient because actually we didn't have really high resolution approaches to do any more than that. And cholera is a very visible disease. And so if you're only dealing with outbreaks and you have a paradigm where the local environment is the source of your cholera, then all of those things are probably as much resolution as you need. The key point is that genomics showed a completely different story. So underneath that code, what genomics did, just like it's done for COVID, is to add the ultimate level of resolution. Looking across the globe and looking at the sequence of individual isolates causing disease globally, it turned out that rather than them emanating from a local environment where you'd expect, for example, strains in Latin.
I missed Latin America. They don't speak Latin. I missed one thing. Stays fresher longer, comma, naturally, footnote 1. That word natural, naturally, has no legal definition. Everything's natural.
Cholera is present in different places all over the world. You can find it in London's River Thames if you look. The traditional theory is that cholera is opportunistic, that this disease could flare up anywhere, and when it does, it's because it's given the right circumstances, like poor sanitation, that allow it to get into and spread in human populations. Nick's work turns that theory on its head. By sequencing the genes of many samples of Vibrio cholerae, known as isolates, he could build up a family tree for this species of bacteria, the distant and close relatives and where they crop up. This work showed that rather than cholera being everywhere all the time and flaring up randomly, the most important factor in spreading this bug about is us.
No shit,
different epidemics in different parts of the world all originated from a single strain moved about by humans.
Isolates from the Yemen were very similar to those we saw originally in Calcutta in around about 2012, i.e. they'd been imported. They weren't endemic to the Yemen. They were actually clones that had moved from South Asia through East Africa before likely appearing to cause disease in the Yemen.
Are you already seeing organisations like the World Health Organization change the way they deal with cholera as a result of your findings? I mean, are they starting to vaccinate in different places, for example?
Yes, they are. The first thing that's changed is we start to talk about the bacterium, and we start to talk about a specific lineage of that bacterium. That may seem really subtle, but it's incredibly important, because if you, one of the cornerstones of disease control is to recognize the thing you're trying to get rid of in as fine a detail as possible. We're also thinking about cholera epidemiological regions. So that's regions where we know cholera to be important. many of those span national boundaries. So it's not a country issue anymore. It's a shared responsibility
It never
to
was, dumbass.
think about how to control.
Reading
The epidemics he's logging are older than most fucking countries.
How a disease mutates as it moves from
It's
population
no longer
to
a national issue.
So genetic science is becoming increasingly important, whether we're talking about cholera or COVID, and sewage testing is making that possible. This is Crowd Science from the BBC World Service, and I really hope you aren't eating at the moment, because this episode is heavy on the sewage chat. We're revisiting this filthy subject to find out what wastewater can tell us about the spread of disease. The simple act of flushing is an incredible source of data. But what about all the other stuff we put down the loo? Listener Wendy wants to know whether our wastewater industry might be setting us up for problems down the line.
Over the past 50 years, the use of prescription medicine has really exploded. Does the treatment of sewage effectively and safely neutralise all the medicines we take?
Antidepressants in our tap
The
water.
water
That's
in
not
our
a joke.
taps comes from a range of different sources, including lakes, rivers, or underground reserves. Once we've drunk it or showered under it, that water's sent to a sewage treatment plant, where it's cleaned up before being released back into those lakes and rivers. And that's what Wendy's concerned about.
It was just astonishing, the rise in the amount of medicines that we take. Then I heard your program, and I thought, yeah, well, I mean, I know that human waste has been put on land for centuries, but not always containing what it must now contain. All the vitamins that we throw down our throats, you know, for all this wonderful stuff that you're supposed to take, it all ends up in the same place. We're doomed. We're doomed.
But are we? How clean is the waste we're putting back into our waterways? And should we be worried about the animals living in them? Professor Andrew Johnson studies the effect of chemicals in our rivers, and there's a lot of them.
When I was doing research on this a few years ago, the number that came up with chemicals registered in the
water we have right now
possibly likely to go into the environment was up at the level of 100,000. Now some colleagues tell me they think that's an underestimate and it's more like 300,000.
Think of all the products you use to clean yourself and your home every day. Shampoo, bleach, laundry detergent. Then imagine billions of people on this planet doing the same. That stuff has got to go somewhere. It doesn't stop existing once it's gone down the drain. Andrew says that the individual chemicals in those products are tested in labs to see if they're toxic, and only those that pass certain pretty high environmental standards are approved.
That's not true.
But the regulators don't look at what happens when these substances are mixed together, what they might turn into. Add to this all the medicines we take. Most of these drugs are taken up by the body, but not all of them.
Up to about 10-20% of the parent compound can be excreted by the body, and then it goes on its journey down the sewer network, and then it gets exposed to the bacteria which live in sewage works, which are the main agents that break down chemicals. And again, you could say another rule of thumb would be to expect about 80% to 90% removal of those residual compounds, leaving you with what arrives in the rivers.
Can you give me an example? What kind of drugs are we talking about?
The one that got a lot of attention, and I was involved in quite a bit of the research, was compounds that have an endocrine disrupting effect. And the big one, called ethinyl estradiol, was the active ingredient of many of the oral contraceptives. As fish are vertebrates like us, they actually contain many of the same receptors for drugs that we have.
You've been giving the fish birth control, you wonder where the fish are going.
Fish, and particularly male fish, were particularly sensitive to this estrogenic compound. So estrogens are involved in pregnancy, or shutting down pregnancy in this case. But of course, in males, they can have a disruptive effect. And so what was happening is that some male fish that were getting exposed to estrogenic compounds like ethinyl estradiol coming out of wastewater treatment plants were showing some female characteristics, even to the extent of having things like small eggs appearing in their testes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the net result
the virus
was,
don't give a fuck.
unsurprisingly, a reduction in the fertility of the male fish. And this was a cause of great concern.
Where does the virus had infected a
maybe
bacteria?
10 to 20% of the original drug. What does that equate to?
Hormonally acting pharmaceuticals are so potent, only very small amounts are necessary to affect our bodies. And so, in fact, only about 9 grams a day are going into British rivers to cause this disruption. So 9 grams, if you can imagine it, is the same as 3 sugar cubes.
That sounds like a reassuring.
That's how much uranium goes down the sewer every
These
day.
tiny,
10 grams a
tiny
day,
traces of
3.65
contraceptive
kilos
were
last
enough
year
to
or the year
change
before.
fish's natural biology once they got into the river system. What scientists really wanted to know, though, was whether those changes affected the fish's ability to reproduce. And the results might surprise you.
A fish being less fertile doesn't mean that they're infertile. And in fact, fish stocks are not in a bad position for many species, despite being exposed to endocrine disruptors. So in fact, we got it wrong. We overestimated the damage compared to what was actually happening to the fish populations. So whilst we are concerned about impacts on individual animals, the populations in our rivers actually seem to be doing better than might have been expected.
Despite that encouraging news, Andrew says we do need to continually monitor our natural environment to catch any effects from all these chemicals. And we didn't even have time to go into antibiotics in our wastewater, which are a driver of microbial resistance. If you want to hear about silver nanoparticles and what they're doing to sterilize the soil, check out the podcast version of this show.
Was that a digital harpsichord?
Realise. On the one hand, it's a reminder of just how much potential humans have for damaging the natural environment. But the more we mine our sewage for information, the better we can become at both preventing.
So they didn't even mention all the psych drugs, all the various psychoactive drugs. There's another thing happening in Canada. Our tap water has multi-drug resistant bacteria that will kill you if you're immunocompromised. It's not a joke. The tap water that comes from the tap, there's so much shit growing in it. They don't use chlorine, they use chloramine. There's thousands of people that have died of this shit in Ottawa and shit. You better have something good for us, Chan. Damn it.
बनी मगर शोहरत की रोशनी उन पर बरसना इसी फिल्म से शुरू हुई थी जिसका गीत था उस साल पायदान नंबर 18 पर। फिल्म थी जीवन मृत्यु और हीरोइन का नाम आप बताइए? राखी। झिलमिल सितारों का आंगन होगा, रिमझिम बरसता सावन होगा, झिलमिल सितारों का आंगन होगा, रिमझिम बरसता सावन होगा, ऐसा सुंदर सपना अपना जीवन होगा, झिलमिल सितारों का आंगन होगा, रिमझिम बरसता सावन होगा.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto,
I
bringing
had a
you the
copy of
latest updates on
L'Express, but it blew away in the wind. I'm not
Stay
even
informed,
joking.
Stay safe and stay tuned to Chin
100
Radio
hour
AM
dust.
1540.
Up the road. Let's go and smoke them out of here. Swear to God, I'm just gonna go.
Now, as gunshots echo across the wind-swept, snow-covered reaches of the wild northwest, Quaker buckwheat and Quaker.
BBC.
Carpet. We'll be bringing you all the latest news from the Oscars, just wrapping up in Los
Forgot. Yeah. Okay.
Academy Awards is breaking barriers in the
Hey,
process.
this is why I feel like I didn't hear the news yet.
Consensus.
I've checked every major outlet.
Lawbreakers, on King, on you have
What if I tuned to old Cappy Radio?
Gold discovered in the Yukon. A stampede to the Klondike in the wild race for riches. Back to the days of the gold rush. With Quaker Puff wheat and Quaker Puff rice, bringing you the adventures of Sergeant Preston and his wonder dog Yukon King as they meet the challenge of the Yukon. On your mark, get set. Fellas and girls, running foot races or playing baseball or any sport calls for a hearty breakfast. Tomorrow, make yours a breakfast of delicious.
He says, while she believes in the collective bargaining process, she has a responsibility to prevent serious national economic harm. Though she adds forcing workers back on the job is Ottawa's least favorite option. She also says the two sides remain far apart despite this extensive support that included over 100 mediated sessions.
The Indian government has confirmed that it's ordered social media giants to remove about 100 posts critical of its handling of the pandemic, including from opposition politicians. Twitter said it had complied with the request, explaining it had blocked some material from being viewed in India. Charles Haviland reports. Twitter hasn't specified the content it took down within India, but media reports say it includes a tweet from a politician in West Bengal holding India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi directly responsible for COVID deaths, and one by an actor, Vineet Kumar Singh, criticizing Mr. Modi for holding political rallies while the virus raged. The government said the material was misleading or could spark panic. Twitter has said it only removes material that is demonstrably false, but there's been an outcry from Indian public figures accusing the government of being better at censorship than supplying oxygen. More European countries are easing coronavirus restrictions as their vaccination programs gain impetus. In Belgium, hairdressers and some other shops are reopening, while pubs in Scotland are taking orders outdoors. With more details from Italy and France, here's Nick Beak. In the country,
Air blood clots. Both the CDC and the FDA say they remain confident the benefits of the J&J vaccine outweigh any risks. I'm Julie Walker.
After Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd last week, there have been renewed calls for police reform in the U.S.
An ABC News Washington Post poll finds 60% of Americans believe more should be done to hold police accountable. Democratic Representative Karen Bass of California tells ABC News more focus is needed on mental health.
People go into a crisis, you wind up calling the police, and the individual gets killed.
Republicans largely oppose a number of Democratic initiatives aimed at addressing policing issues, including ending qualified immunity, which shields police officers from being held personally liable for actions while on duty. Mark Remillard, ABC News.
In sports, no matchups in the NHL's North Division, but a few
for negotiations after a day of intense fighting in the capital Mogadishu. Rival factions of the security forces turned on each other as allies and enemies of the controversial president Mohamed Abdullahi Farmajo fought. The former president Hassan Sheikh Mohammed and a senior opposition leader say their homes were attacked. Some clan leaders and former warlords are involved in the clashes. Military sources loyal to the Yemeni government have conceded that rebel Houthi forces have made gains in the battle for the northern city of Marib. They said fierce clashes had left a total of 65 people dead on both sides, and that the rebels were now only 6 kilometers from the city center. They have come under attack from airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition. Apple is expected in the next few days to release an upgrade to its operating system for iPhones, which has led to public disagreements with another tech giant, Facebook. The upgrade will include privacy changes as
the news, which is so negative. There's just hate crimes happening all over, left, right, and center, traumatizing people. And I had a patient this week who was a physician, and he actually said, you know, you've got to realize we are all slightly depressed. And I was really struck by that comment, and I thought, he may not be all that wrong on that comment. He may not be off.
It's a pharmaceutical
That's why I invited my next.
I called it last week too. I said the same thing. That's a pharmaceutical user right there. Oh, maybe I'm depressed. I give you an excuse to take drugs. We're not all depressed. That's the other thing junkies do.
Dwellers in the United States.
The other thing junkies do is just to tell themselves, or they insist that everybody else is the same as that. I've had 1,000 different crackheads tell me I was a crackhead. Really? Okay, you say so.
All right, I am. I mean, let's face it. We all had these particular lives that we lived, and I feel terribly guilty and self.
You are guilty. You're trying to pretend you're not by attaching it to something that's got nothing to do with what you do.
We're going to cross next to India as the world rushes to help the country deal with its oxygen crisis as COVID cases continue to soar. We'll take you to Australia as well. Sadly, cases are rising again in Perth. We'll bring you up to date with everything that's happened in the Oscars. Just wrapping up in Los Angeles, an historic night for women. Only the second woman in the Oscars history to win Best Director. Chloe Zhao has won that. James Gregg is here with the sport. Andrew Wood is live from Hong Kong with the business news. We take you around the world here on Newsday. Let's get to it.
And on that journey around the world, let's start in India, because the United States is so concerned that the spread of COVID in the country may disrupt global efforts to tackle the disease that it's sending emergency medical aid. On Saturday, some 2,600 people died having contracted COVID within the previous 28 days. Let's head now to Delhi. We're going to be talking to a doctor in a hospital shortly. But firstly, is Dr. Shahid Jamil, who's a virologist and director of biosciences at Ashoka University. Dr. Jamil, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday. The question 1.3 billion people are asking is, has India hit the peak when it comes to COVID?
Well, Rahul, peak is a very funny thing. Peak you only know of the peak when you're past it. Everything else is a prediction. And the prediction right now is
don't fight something with nothing.
India is likely to hit the peak in the first or second week of May.
That was a Mexican guy.
And the numbers that are floating around are quite worrisome. Those numbers are somewhere in the range of about 500,000 per day to about 800,000 or 900,000 per day.
You got a new accent by it.
It's difficult, isn't it? But it's difficult because India it's so varied, isn't it? So we have states like Maharashtra at the moment, which has been the worst affected one, which could be at the peak.
If you ever hear people say 100 instead of 100, it's not wrong. It's Dutch.
India is a subcontinent. It's not one country. And different regions are showing the outbreak at different states at different levels. But whatever it may be, I think we are in this at least for the next 3 months or so, because even our first wave showed that it took about 4 months from the start of the wave till the end of the wave. The trouble is that this one, the rise is much sharper, and the magnitude of the wave is quite a bit larger.
It's huge, isn't it? Let's be honest about this. You know,
it is huge.
I've spent a lot of my life in India. I've just had a text from a friend whose father's passed away. That is a common message that is going around India at this point in time. Do we know which variant is causing the infections at the moment? Is it the UK variant? Is it the double mutant variant? Is it even the triple mutant variant that people are talking about in India?
This left a mnemonic mark on me. I forget how I got to this guy's page, some guy in India or something, and he made some post. I forget what it was. Somebody left a comment asking where so-and-so was. He died. This was years ago. That's all that left a mark on my brain.
Experiencing different mutants, different variants. So, for example, if you look at the Punjab, about 80% of the sequences from Punjab belong to the UK variant. If you look in Maharashtra, you see the rising percentage of B617, which is the Indian variant, over the last 2 months.
So from March 2019 to...
We have a lot of 117, which is the UK variant, but we also have rising 617.
2020.
If you look east towards West Bengal, you have these, but of very much concern You also have the South African variant of concern.
Which is coming.
To
Dr. Jamil, we're going to have to leave it there, as you pointed out, a very complicated situation when it comes to the different strains in India.
You got variants.
Yeah, that's how the virus is spreading, and the levels, as you heard, differing across the subcontinent. Let's get a picture of what life is like on the medical front line now in Delhi. Dr. Harjeet Singh Bhatti works on a COVID ward in Delhi's Manipal.
Speaking of mutations and viruses, I told a story about two people I knew before. One of the things they told us as kids in school, I forget how the conversation went to this, but they were saying that even if two people have HIV, our brains were like, well, if they both have it, it doesn't matter, right? And I said, no. If two people have HIV, they'll have slightly different variants. So they can give each other's HIV and make it much, much worse. That's how much that one mutates.
When the most influential people in India, like the
this is considered a sin or taboo or whatever. Nobody gives a fuck about genetically sequencing that.
And they are also calling and begging for arrangement of beds or how to manage patients at the home. So this is the situation of the influential people, and I'm not even talking about the poor people. I know
not
because
even talking about that's a Canadianism. That's a Canadianism. There's a huge connection between Canada and India. Fuck, what was I about to say? Oh,
and I'm reading that you're seeing people dying on the road,
Easter egg
outside hospitals. Things have got that bad.
Yes, definitely. We are seeing that the patients, people are gasping for oxygen. They are asking for hospital beds. Their saturations is falling. But unfortunately, we don't have that type of infrastructure available to provide beds.
Oxygen concentrators. They make these machines for people here. There are people here that have sickness. The van pulls around with oxygen tanks and concentrators and parts and everything.
Never. No, not at all.
On the sidewalk, leave them alone. It's an emergency.
That this type of situation ever arisen in the history where
he's on a computer and a phone. There's no rear view camera, but he knows what's going on all around his truck. He knows how valuable the shit in his truck is.
But the situation is like, have you seen the fish out of water? The situation is same as the people who are dying, struggling for oxygen. They are not getting oxygen and they are dying on roads. So it is becoming very difficult day by day.
On road.
And I read that the conflicted feelings you've had when a patient dies, which is tragic. But as a medic, you then think,
if I had known
there is a bed for somebody else who desperately needs help.
Yes, definitely, because many of our patients need ventilator. Many of the patients need high flow oxygen. But because another patient is on the bed and they are on ventilator, so we are not able to provide ventilator to other patients. But at the same time, we are managing that patient. So it is when I am inside my high dependency unit, that is HDU. So we are in a dual mindset. That when one patient expires, we don't have a time to grieve for them. We don't have a time to cry for them. We just have to wrap up their body and just clean the bed and put another patient on that bed with the ventilator. So that's why I have written on my social media also that we are now, our mental status is like that we are feeling a dual sort of emotions. One, grief for my lost patient, and a relief for my another patient which is gasping for breaths, and we are putting them on ventilator in a hope that they might survive and we can save one patient.
Briefly, Doctor, could this situation have been avoided, do you think? We're a year into this now. Is there anything anybody could have done?
Nothing to do with your prime minister. It's all
to have prevented the escalation we have seen in India.
All the prime ministers.
Yes, this can be prevented if sufficient measures was taken from last 1 year, because this virus is not came today. We are into COVID virus from last more than 1 year now. So then oxygen supplementation or oxygen facilities can be increased, hospital beds can be increased, and other thing is that more testing, contact tracing, isolation centers, and try to break the chain of transmission. These things are all known to the government and the policymakers. There is nothing I am telling you.
This is the central isolation meeting.
We might have avoided this situation.
Thank you so much for your time, and good luck with everything you're handling there. Dr. Harjeet Singh Bhatti there, talking to us from a COVID ward at Delhi's Manipal Hospital.
into the program this morning is going to be award-winning sports journalist James Gregg is here telling us about Manchester City, who won their first award of the season.
They have indeed. Yeah, I'm not sure about mine, but yeah, definitely won.
It'll come.
Definitely. Thank
He was lying just outside his door.
So I've done in the last over the course of the last winter, I've done that once with cigarettes, once with matches, and now once with some weed in my pipe. Put it down, forgot I still had it. That usually never happens in my life. That never happens in my life. Oh, there's not much there, but it's what's there is better quality than what I just
Carried the unconscious trapper into the cabin, undressed him, and put him to bed as George Mason lit a fire on the stove.
How is he? His pulse is stronger. Any idea what's wrong? He's a sick man, George. Wonder if he was sick when he showed up at our place last night. Could have been. He has a fever. Looks like he's sleeping now. Doesn't seem to be anything more we can do for him right now. Stay here, that's all. Can't let him throw the blankets off.
The sergeant and George sat beside the trapper's cot all through the night. At daybreak, the man's breathing became labored.
What do you think, Sergeant?
One of these episodes is about scarlet fever.
Beaver City, 20 miles. Of course, there's Marty, but he won't help.
Marty? What do you mean there's Marty?
He's a doctor. At least he was until he came up to the Yukon 3 years ago. He gave it up when his wife died back in the States. He says he killed her.
What are you talking about?
Well, I don't mean murdered her, but she was sick, and
What are
he
you
was taking care of her, and she died.
Oh.
He never says that.
After that, he refused to treat another patient. He took Ann and came up here.
Well, they can't refuse to help at a time like this. He knows more than you or I do. He can at least...
He won't, Sergeant. He's a funny guy. Say.
What?
He's still got his doctor's bag stowed away. There might be some pills or stuff in it.
You go get him. Bring him back here quick with his bag.
Oh, you'd better go.
That's the way to do it. Oh,
What's Louis saying?
He's delirious.
that's the way to catch a trap robber. Bear traps. That'll teach him.
Yeah, it don't make sense.
I wonder.
That'll teach him. The first time they get down the creek, and I never see them. The snow's covering them all up. My tracks, too. It's so hard to walk. Never make it. They rob my traps. Let's see how they like walking into bear traps. I'll show them.
Bear traps?
Yes.
I'll show them.
Bear traps? What do you meant when he said it? Sounds like he said bear traps along the creek over at our place.
I'm afraid he may
Then we've
have.
got to
Yes,
get-
but I'll do it, George. I can make it back there faster than you can.
I'll help you with your
All right, thanks. He must have been ill when he got the idea you dropped his traps. His revenge is part of his delirium. Watch him, George. Keep him well covered.
I will.
I'll see you later. I'll bring Marty back with me.
Yeah, head injuries,
Marty,
bacteria,
who had fallen
viruses,
asleep
don't make you
in a chair
crazy.
by the stove, waiting for the return of George and the sergeant.
Your brain is
was
just a whole
wakened
bunch
by
of
the
neurons.
sunlight streaming through the window. He started to his feet, concern written in his face. He slipped into his parka, picked up his rifle, and left the cabin. It was the slamming of the door that woke little Ann.
Uh-oh.
Daddy,
Oh, you moron.
Daddy?
You left the kid alone in there
When there
with
was no
the sick guy.
response to her call, she slipped out of bed and dressed herself. A few minutes later, her parka buttoned tight against the cold, she stepped out of the cabin.
Daddy, Uncle George, where are you? Maybe they're out in the shed fixing traps.
The little girl ran around the cabin to the shed. She didn't see the sergeant's team, who had been tied behind the shed and had burrowed deep in the snow. But when she opened the door, she saw King.
A dog! Daddy bought a doggy! Oh, you're beautiful. You're the most beautiful doggy in the whole wide world. Oh, your coat is like a silver.
Pain shot through King's shoulder as the little girl patted him. But he recognized the affection in her voice and made no effort to move away. Then the little girl grasped his harness and pulled him to his feet.
Come on out and play. We'll go down to the creek, doggy. Now brush away the snow and you can pull me along the ice. Come on, boy. Come on.
King allowed himself to be led to the shed, and he walked quietly beside the little girl as she started trudging toward the creek. But his shoulder was terribly sore, and each step was filled with pain. He found it difficult to keep pace with the little girl.
Come on. See if you can catch me.
The little girl started to run. A scent reached King, a combination of man smell and steel and grease. The sergeant had taught him all about traps, and King knew there was one buried in the snow directly ahead of the child. He ran after her and took her parka in his teeth, pulling her to a stop.
Oh, no. You do fair. Can't do that. Come on, let's go.
Anne pulled away and started to run toward the creek once more. King ran after her, and this time as he caught up with her, he jumped against her. She lost her balance and fell into a snowdrift. At just that moment, Marty walked into the clearing. He only saw King jump and Anne fall. King was standing over the little girl, determined to keep her away from the trap. To Marty, it seemed that he was menacing her. Without any hesitation, he raised his rifle to his shoulder, sighted, and shot.
A little girl,
A wave of blinding pain swept through King, and then a strange blackness blotted out the light from his eyes. He dropped to the ground.
Because a white guy thinks that's how death happens. It was like Chomo showing me my eyes closed 10,000 times in his other recording.
Anne, are you all right? Did you hurt you?
No. We're only playing.
This is a
Why did you
stupid person.
shoot them?
I saw him jump at you.
He only pushed me, Lou. It was a game we were playing. Oh, look at him. Look at what you've done. He's dead.
I see. The sergeant had run hard all the way from Lacey's cabin. He reached the clearing as Marty knelt beside King's still body. He saw King, Marty, and Anne and sprinted to join them.
King! King! What's the matter with him?
I shot him.
In heaven's name, man, why?
I saw him jump against Anne. I thought he was attacking her.
You should beat that guy to death right now. But instead, you're going to fix the
You were
dog.
running toward the creek? Give me your rifle, Marty.
What for?
I'll show you. I'll show you why King acted the way he did.
The sergeant took the rifle from Marty's hand. He started toward the creek, probing the snow with a rifle stock.
Oh, I thought he was going to shoot.
He had only taken 3 steps when the rifle hit the trap. The steel jaws snapped shut, biting deep into the wood.
Look, you see this? A bear trap. Lacey set a
destroyed
line in
the
the
gun,
mine so
too.
King could smell it. King knew it was here, and he wanted to stop your daughter from walking into it. He was
Moron.
protecting her. And look how you paid him back. King, old fella.
I would kill his
Say,
daughter
don't say
right
anything.
there
Do
in front of
something. He
him.
isn't dead.
No, I wouldn't. I'd kill him and kidnap
You're
the
a
daughter.
doctor, and you
raise her
can
as
save
an
him.
idiot.
I'm not a doctor, and I can't.
Raise her
You've
as an
got to
idiot.
try.
I've forgotten. Yes.
You've got to try.
Punch him. He'll remember.
Let me see.
Hit him with that rifle like a bat. Because if you shoot him, he can't do the job.
It's close hard, eh? I don't know that I can get it out
It
fast.
has to be removed.
Yes.
Then do it.
I'll get my bag. I'll be back in a minute. Don't let him move.
King boy. King.
He's such a
Leaving a kid alone
He's the best friend
in
I've
a
ever-
cabin with a sick
Best
man.
friend I have.
My daddy won't let him die.
What they say?
Marty
6
was
years
back
old.
in
Doesn't know
less
she
than
can't
5
go out in
minutes.
the winter by
Prepared to
herself.
go
Doesn't
to
know she can't go near the
Heavily
water.
anesthetic, but he may not regain consciousness. I hope not until later.
Here's
But if he does,
you saw what just happened there, right?
don't let him move.
I'll just keep my hand on his head. That'll be enough if I think to lie still.
Here goes.
King did regain consciousness. But he saw
I'll
his
put you in
master.
leg shackles in a
That was
fucking
enough for
shed,
him.
bro.
Easy, boy. Easy.
A Home Depot shed inside of a shipping container behind a fenced lot.
Nothing.
You'll be fixing every homeboy and dog I got.
Touch these instruments again.
I know. But if you win here,
We'll send you a
save King,
Snapchat
you'll
of
be
your little
saving
girl
yourself.
every day just to remind
I
you
have
not
another
to fuck
person waiting
around.
for you, too.
Who is it?
Lacey, I think it's
Oh,
no
the
longer.
admins are on
I'll
us.
go to it.
The admins are going to punish us for telling jokes.
Yes, if you need me.
You're still a doctor, Marty.
This is the critical
What would you do
moment.
to a doctor 130 years ago?
Don't let King move.
Right.
What do you
I
want?
shouldn't know when
King's
sick
eyes
is reported.
filled with pain.
His AI
but filled
scans
too
everything.
with trust and love. Never left place. And not a muscle moved. Not even when the pain mounted in intensity. The sergeant's face became blurred. King felt that he was sinking down, down, down into darkness. He whimpered a little goodbye to the sergeant.
Dogs don't go into darkness.
There
What
it
are you
is.
talking about?
Finished. Nothing left to do but dress the wound.
Can you tell?
No, not yet. As soon as I'm through with this, you can carry me to the house.
I'll go and make a bed for him by the stove.
Yes, darling.
I'll use the best blanket for my very own bed.
You've changed your mind about dogs. I understand how you feel about King.
I understand how
I feel
you
the same
feel.
way. If we lose him, he's unconscious. There's still a chance.
All right to lift him, huh?
Yes.
Wow, the admins don't like
The
us right
sergeant
now.
lifted King in his arms, and slowly he and Marty
Chomo's
walked to the
back?
cabin.
No?
King was
Why
placed on a
Chomo?
blanket close to the stove. Marty left for Lacey's cabin. The sergeant and Anne sat beside King for the next 3 hours, hardly speaking, afraid to put their hope into words. At last, Marty returned.
How about Lacey? You always will stay with him. I think you'll pull through.
I'm so proud of you, Daddy.
And you shouldn't be, darling, after what I did to King.
But you're going to make him well. And you're going to be a doctor all the time now.
His daughter is stupid.
And you can come back to the
He left her alone in her house with a sick
and be a doctor there.
And if I can make King well, then I will be a doctor again, yes.
He'll get well. I know it now. Sergeant,
Yes, Anne.
put your hand on his head, like you did before.
All right.
He loves you so. He'll answer if you call him. I know he will. Say his name.
All right. King. King.
See, they wrote that into the script. No voiceover, no narrator.
Weakly, he tried to wag his tail.
Kids inherently connect to animals.
Back, old fella. Yes.
And when it comes to dogs, women tend to connect. The male dogs tend to connect to women really well somehow.
All right, boy. The case is closed.
That's the end.
In just a moment, Sergeant Preston will
That's
give you
the
a preview of Wednesday's
horrible
adventure. Here's the breakfast that wins the praise of so many He-Man Hollywood movie stars.
It's Quaker Puff Wheat. Or Quaker Puff Rice.
These ready-to-serve cereals are
The quinoa and kale.
You'll extend the life of your quieter ride on your all-season tires, which are designed for warmer temperatures. Contact your nearest Ontario Toyota dealer today and get the right tires at the right price thanks to our price match promise. When it comes to tires, details make the difference. Terms and conditions apply.
Elevators. They're not something we give much thought to, but when they're not operating correctly, it can cause serious disruptions. That's why CEE
interview I did on Newsday in the last year with the director, the creator of the film that won Best Documentary, My Octopus Teacher, about a relationship that he built up with this octopus and how it changed his life. An incredibly profound movie and a popular win.
Yeah, definitely a popular win. You know, the funny thing.
The octopus feels anything for you. It's trying to figure out how to eat you. If you ever see the tap to download the Facebook update thing on your screen, don't do it. It fucks it up. Wagwan computer. Numerous tickets issued after police break up large party in Toronto. Mars helicopter achieves its fastest, furthest flight yet. These are both happening at the same time. There's I think it's actually on YouTube. There's a show that originally was called Deepwater. Keep it up, Chomo. Deepwater Black, and they changed the name to Regenesis. Well, sending spaceships up with clones on them. Yeah, we just lost audio, no? See, what's so pathetic about you, you can only hit this device or that one at a time. You can only use one exploit at a time. You have an 8-second ping time. So there's fuck, what was the term? They got this term for these memories they have that they never lived because they're clones, but it's in their DNA. It's not on purpose. It just happened. They all remember being selected or whatever by this committee of people that's going to be sent on to survive this virus. And then they send out these ships. And then part of the story goes that supposedly they found a cure for the virus right after they sent out those ships. On those ships were samples of the virus because they didn't have the cure when they sent them out. So they could figure out how to cure it. Once they found a cure for the virus on Earth, Oh, yes, Chomo. You're going to do this over and over and over, Chomo. Where were you? We've been doing this for 3 hours. Where were you? He's not going to stop. No sex offender ever stops. 35 years. You think he's going to stop now? On these ships are samples of the virus. They find a cure for the virus right after they send the ship. So they send out hunters and privateers, bounty hunters, whatever you want to call them, to go destroy all these ships, which, by the way, wouldn't destroy the virus. So that's a bad idea. And no, I haven't ruined the show for you. That's all in the first episode. That's all in the first 1 or 2 episodes. Jesus Christ, we're gonna have this problem all fucking day, eh? I just waited 30 seconds for a menu to pop up. I mean, fucking ridiculous. Yeah, keep freezing. I know, you love staring at my face. That's great. It's wonderful, dog. I don't give a fuck. Stare at the photo on your screen, that's fine. Edit it however you want, that's fine. But why are you insisting? Well, I guess we'll just sit here for 20 minutes and do nothing.